Bruce Mackenzie is going to be joining the Alliance High School, while Ashley Kerubo, who emerged the top girl, is going to be joining Kenya High. That and so much will be coming up as we focus on those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours, including a sneak peek into what has been happening in matters politics. The end of this week, we're going to be having party primaries in UDA. What changes, what happens, and another headache. We're talking about the running mate headache that is dogging both Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, so to speak. Good morning once again. I'm Regina Manyara. We welcome your feedback. You can get us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1, and my Twitter handle is at Ray Manyara. Now we start off with matters fuel, where there is a fuel supply challenge being witnessed in parts of the country. A week after the government released 34.4 billion shillings to settle the fuel subsidy arrears owed to marketers, and 4 days after a ship docked with 100 million litres of fuel. A spot check by KBC found that some petrol stations had no fuel at all, while those that had supplies had long queues.
Kutoka Thika sasa niko Kiambu, kuna mafuta. Thika road iko, lakini line inatoka hapa. Line kubwa. Over like garita 50. Hata sioni sasa ni kuenda niweke kagari nichukue sasa matatu.
It's not enough. Actually, my car doesn't have any gas right now, so that's why I've been queuing here for long now.
Kama mimi ni dereva wa taxi. Gari yangu imeishia mafuta huko na nilikuwa na customer ametoroka. Hakuna hata pesa ameniwachia. Tena nimerudi kwa mfuko kwa ile pesa nilikuwa nimepata asubuhi.
Juu hiyo 1000 kama mimi haiwezi fanya kazi ile nataka kufanya.
On Monday last week, the government announced it had released 34.4 billion shillings to clear outstanding arrears owed to fuel marketers for the fuel subsidy program that has been in place since June last year.
Mimi nikakukawa nimefika, lakini badala ya kuwekewa kukawa na commotion sijui ya watu wa pikipiki. Sasa mimi nikabaki tu hapa.
Kama saa hii sasa nikikosa nikabaki gari.
And on Thursday last week, Energy Cabinet Secretary Monica Juma was at Kipevu Oil Terminal to receive a vessel that brought in 100 million litres of fuel. This was expected to ease fuel supply challenges that have been witnessed across the country over the last 3 weeks.
Kuenda kupika siasa inakuwa ni ngumu sababu sina mafuta. Gari zangu zote hazina mafuta, simekaa, simelala.
Kazi wa bodaboda na limeniadhiri kiwango cha wiki mzima.
Mafuta kama lita moja tulikuwa tunauziwa 300. Na ile place tunaendea mafuta ni mbali. Unapata unatumia mafuta uendea mafuta.
For some motorists, stocking up is paramount, with a majority piling up stocks in jerrycans despite a government recommendation on motorists to stop panic purchases.
Mafuta imekosa, sasa watu wamekosa kazi. Kwa hivyo tunaomba hii Ministry of Petroleum wawache kutudanganya, watuambie mafuta wameficha wapi.
Ukienda kwa petrol station hakuna, so atuelewi, serikali itueleze.
The uncertainty among motorists is growing ahead of the Easter festivities, with a significant number of Kenyans planning to travel.
Hapa tunapata na 136, kule unaweza pata na 140 ama 145.
Whether the prices have been reviewed or not, that the fuel that we need for our cars is available for our use. That is the most important thing that we need as at now.
It's a high level of anxiety among Kenyan motorists, and for them is for government to make do with their promise and ensure that fuel shortage issues are a thing of the past, especially ahead of the Easter holidays. I'm Regina Manyara, and you're watching KBC Channel 1.
That was a spot check yesterday from various parts of the country there, including the coastal region, Lamu there, where still Kenyans are decrying the fuel shortage. This is a hashtag that has been trending on Twitter since yesterday, and pictures and videos there have been shared on this particular platform that indicate, yes, that the long queues ran into the middle of the night. Some fueling stations limited the commodity to at least super petrol worth 1,000 bob. But the question is, those who are planning to travel or those who are on transit, did they get to where they wanted to go. Did they get to their destinations? And also the questions that are being asked by other various social media users and Kenyans for that matter is, umeweka ngata wapi? Yes, in other words, is that where have you fueled? Let the other person know, because we are currently riding a fuel shortage. We'll be keeping tabs on that as a business desk as the day processes. Now, Form 1 selection began yesterday. All the 1.2 million Kenyan certificate of primary education candidates who sat for their Class 8 examinations were placed in secondary schools. Now, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says 38,797 of them have been selected to join national schools, while 214,960 others have been placed in extra county schools, while another 2,558,456 will be enrolled in county schools.
Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says the Form 1 selection process was based on merit, choice and equity. The remarks appearing to provide comfort to students who failed to receive call-ups to schools of their choice.
In the placement, the majority of candidates who scored 400 marks and above were placed in national or extra county schools of their choice. Special needs candidates were also placed in regular schools of their preference, while others were placed in special schools or based on their disability categories, merit and choice.
Nanyuki High School appeared to be the most desired center of excellence, with 156,003 students applying for Form 1 slots, despite the school having the capacity to admit a paltry 480 students. 149,087 students had picked Kabianga High School, though the school can only accommodate 528 learners in Form 1. Pangani Girls capped the top 3 positions of the most desired schools, attracting 118 and 73 applications against the 336 slots available.
We have still refused to be reasonable. Just like everybody wants to go to Kenya High School, Alliance and Pangani, in advising their children, they still also advise the children to make exactly the same mistake. And that is going to be a matter that the education field officers, together with the teachers, must take action upon, together with the parents.
But in the end, the government believes it has done everything to ensure all learners transit to secondary school. The Ministry of Education has placed 38,797 candidates in national schools, another 2,045 in special needs education, 214,960 others in extra county schools, 218,456 more in county schools, and 726,311 others will join sub-county schools, while another 9,128 are refugees in camps. Professor Magoha announced that the government will be offering 9,000 scholarships to needy students.
Like I've said, bursaries and scholarships should be given only for those children in boarding schools. In very simple English, the government of the Republic of Kenya pays for school fees for every child in a day secondary school. So if you are going to give so much money to a child in a day secondary school, some of that money may end up in your own pocket. So we are going to advise that you give scholarship to only children who are going to boarding schools.
Over 1.2 million candidates who sat for their 2021 KCPE examinations will have a chance to continue with their secondary school education in national, extra county, county and sub-county schools, even as the government continues to assure of 100% primary to secondary school transition.
Some of the parents have already started raising concerns over the Form 1 selection, with some of them saying that their students, or rather their children, have been placed in day schools very far off from where they reside. Where do they get these issues addressed? That's the main question. So if your child has been called to a day school in a different county than where you reside, what options are you looking at? That's a good question. You can get us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1. Now, on to matters food relief, where the government flagged off a consignment of emergency food supplies worth 100 million shillings to 20,000 households in Marsabit County. The prolonged drought has affected more than 23 arid and semi-arid counties in Kenya. Marsabit County alone accounts for more than 250,000 people in need of relief assistance. Ruth Wamboi with the details.
More than 3.1 million people are facing starvation in Kenya, a situation that has been worsened by 3 failed rainy seasons. Marsabit County is among the most affected of the 23 Asa regions of the country.
If we cannot keep our children in school in this Asa region, you can imagine the inequity that we are actually nurturing in this country. Therefore, in those countries when I visit, I've realized children stay in school because there's a feeding program.
Speaking while flagging off food trucks to the northern part of the country, CS Ministry of Gender Professor Margaret Kobia said long-term sustainable measures are already in place to address the drought situation.
Some area, even like Embu, there are areas like Bere, which might not be necessarily out of the 23. I've come to know that areas in Nyandarua, Kon, Daragwa. So even when we are saying 23 is a bit of understatement. This drought is dire and we need really to spend a lot of time.
This even as private sector players under the banner Pamoja Tuungane campaign call for more collaborations to help those in dire need, with long-term plans to eradicate hunger in the country.
Those of you who agreed that we sit together and put this concept together, it's no longer a concept, it's a reality.
To think about more sustainable interventions, and some of these interventions including addressing food security, water supply, improved sanitation, hygiene and nutrition awareness.
So we need to be more prepared, and I think as corporates, and I don't this time look at government, because government has many demands on their taxpayers' money.
In February 2022, President Uhuru Kenyatta released emergency relief foods to 2.8 million Kenyans to cushion them against persistent drought.
Now, while that is underway, the Jubilee Party is challenging the National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi to resign from his position after joining the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. The party's Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni says though his impeachment is off the table, Muturi should step down for abandoning President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Jubilee Party.
Though Muturi had ditched the Jubilee Party even before becoming the party leader of the Democratic Party, his joining of the Kenya Kwanza Alliance Saturday appears to have rattled his former party. Party Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni now wants the Speaker to resign from steering the National Assembly, accusing him of betraying President Uhuru Kenyatta.
A person who believes in himself and a person who is would want to be genuine to Kenyans would quickly put in a resignation letter. To see him betraying the president at this hour, even when the writing is on the wall, I don't see any other form of dishonesty that we can go beyond that.
Kioni claiming Muturi is now favouring legislators allied to Deputy President William Ruto and the UDA party.
Since 1963, this is the bunge that has performed the worst. And UNDA, this thing of wheelbarrow, was formed from the floor of the House.
This even as ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi called on Kenya Kwanza supporters across the country to remain vigilant ahead of the forthcoming elections. While alleging a plot to antagonize Kenyans through politics of division, The Kenya Kwanza principle called on the electorate to vote en masse for the coalition so as to free themselves from a political stranglehold.
Tupigane na ufisadi. Wakenya wanaumia. Bei ya chakula nyinyi wenyewe mnajua. Bei ya mafuta mmejua. Tafadhali tuweke serikali ambayo italeta order kwa mambo haya ambayo yamesambaratika.
According to Mudavadi, the coalition hopes to net in more members after the entry of Muturi.
Kwa hivyo sisi tuunde coalition of parties ambayo ni Kenya Kwanza, na siku ya kuweka stakabadhi zetu deadline ni 9th of May. Wale wameenda coalition of parties, coalition party. Sasa hao ndio deadline yao ilikuwa tarehe 9.
Now, still on matters politics, a group claiming to be ODM supporters in Mombasa now want the party's leader Raila Odinga to intervene and save the party from disintegration. The group claims the just concluded party nominations were marred with irregularities and manipulation.
Stranded voters, uncertainty and pockets of chaos characterized ODM party primaries in Busia County. Kits arrived late in most polling stations, and even after they had been dispatched were not functional, as the Orange Party was hit hard by logistical challenges. Voters from certain designated polling stations, including the gubernatorial candidate Florence Mutua, were forced to move to other polling stations as the kits failed to operate.
Na areas zingine tumekuwa na shida ya password imekuja kuchelewa, so we are also requesting National Elections Board wapatia watu nafasi juu queues bado ziko mrefu kwa hizo areas. Alafu pia network ilikuwa chini kidogo, so information ilikuwa ina hang.
The leaders calling for peaceful process and extension of the voting time for the voters to exercise their democratic right.
So tunaomba National Elections Board tukiwapatia information wapatie those particular areas extra time so that watu waendelee kupiga kwa sababu queues bado ni mrefu vile mnaona hapa.
In parts of Funyula, agents allied to one candidate were roughed up as the situation threatened to get out of hand.
When we were at almost at Mudoma Primary School, the sitting area MCA for Nangina for Nambovoto, Mr. Vincent Olumbe, accosted us and pushed us over the road, went and mobilized some young men who ambushed us and beat us up.
The real contest centering on the coveted gubernatorial seat, which is out of grabs, as outgoing Governor Sospita Ojamong is ineligible to contest, having served 2 terms. Timothy Kipnusu for Prime Edition.
Now, the Green Thinking Action Party of Kenya has urged its aspirants to claim their space in the political arena and help solidify the party's strength. Party leader Dr. Isaac Luo told aspirants to be wary of schemes to derail their quest for elective positions.
In a session to sharpen its aspirants' focus on the forthcoming elections, the Green Thinking Action Party of Kenya cited political schemes during elections, urging its aspirants not to be deterred from the race.
Voter apathy in this country is not just out of people not believing, but because of others doing things that are bad. I'm preparing you for this because you are leaders who are supposed to change what the status quo is. You are going to get letters asubuhi saa zile mnaenda nomination ama kwingine, inasemekana hata na picha yako, mimi nimewaachia huyu opponent yangu, nimeona sitaweza kuendelea, kwa hivyo munisamee, nimeona hii maneno imekuwa ingine. Kwa hivyo asanteni sana, wale ambao walikuwa wananifuata poleni sana. That is going to happen. Prepare yourself to work against odds, because they are there. And this is what we want to change going forward. And the list is so much that we can be able to do. I request that you be the agents, you be the people who are going to change this nation.
During the session that also saw the party issue nomination certificates, party leader Isaac Kalua urged over 300 aspirants to work towards delivering a win for SAFE and for the party in the upcoming polls.
We must be able to know that it is the actions that are taken by leaders that are going to change the nation for posterity. Believe in something, push for it, nenda kabisa, and be the person that must be.
Are your people believing in what you're saying? Are they believing? Unaendanga tu huko, unasema ni mimi, nipigeni kura, and you think you'll get the votes. You have to be a believable leader.
For you, who are going to be in positions of power and influence, keep your word. Keep your word. This country needs that. And I hope that you can convince yourself to a place where you know that as an MCA, as an MP, as a governor, my duty is really to do what? To keep my word.
According to the party that has its focus on the post-election agreements and not supporting current political formations, says its leadership will offer the country the much-needed transformative and people-centered approach to the issues affecting the country.
The Green Thinking Action Party has chosen to have a partnership or a coalition after the elections, so that what we do not want to lose are leaders who are ethical and effective at the grassroots level and connect with the principles of our party just because of choosing sides.
For your space at the table, that is the main motivation for tap there people who are running under that, the Green Thinking Party. Now, away from matters politics, Kenya needs to renew its focus on HIV and AIDS prevention if it is to stop the alarming rate of new infections. National AIDS Control Council Chief Executive Officer Dr. Ruth Laibon Marsha said that with 33,000 people infected in the country, the spike in new infections threatens to reverse the gains against the pandemic.
The rise in new HIV infections dominated the agenda as the 3-day annual HIV/AIDS consultative and mobilization meeting began in Nairobi on Monday. According to the United Nations Program on HIV and AIDS, UNAIDS Director of Science and Systems Ford Simage, the epidemic continues to ravage the sub-Saharan Africa with 4,000 new infections reported every day.
1 of 4 infection in sub-Saharan Africa are for young girls and adolescent girl and young women aged to 15 to 24 years old. You can see how red it is in the southern part of Africa.
National AIDS Control Council NACC Chief Executive Officer Dr. Ruth Marsha said Kenya also recorded an increase in infections in 2021. Marsha affirmed that the rate of infection is high among adolescent girls, with more women accessing treatment than men.
Every year we get, like last year we had around 32,000 new HIV infections, and what is really the challenge of this country is that these infections are happening among young people. If you look at the ages from 35 and below, you find that is where our new infections are concentrated, and most importantly is the ages of 15 to 24. So 61% of all new infections come from the younger people.
She called for partnerships and coordination towards improving resource utilization for sustainable impact against HIV.
If you check the statistics and estimate based on our previous year, you find that we have 98 new infections occurring in this country. And those are too many for any country, because what is now happening is that as we address the entire response, we are beginning to have younger people, and when younger people get HIV, then they also have to be put on treatment for their entire lifelong.
We cross over to matters business, where Lake Victoria is set for a 5 billion shillings fish restocking program. The program, which is a collaboration between Kenya and Hungary, will see the entire lake restocked with Nile perch fingerlings to shore up fishing stocks.
Kenya produces 149,000 metric tons of fish annually, against a consumption of 450,000 metric tons. This, according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, prompted Kenya to import fish worth 1.5 billion shillings in 2020 to bridge the deficit. The fish deficit is partly blamed on the declining stock in Lake Victoria due to overfishing that has seen stock reduced by 70%. Kenya, in partnership with Hungary, has started a Nile perch breeding project in Kisumu that will be used as a breeding site for the species to restock Lake Victoria.
Are at a very advanced stage to partner with the Hungarian government with some investment or totaling about 5 billion Kenya shillings to develop that infrastructure to grow our Nile perch potential, not just for Kenya but for the region.
In efforts to show up fishing activities in the country, talks between Kenya and China concerning the suspension of fishing licenses for 6 Chinese fishing ships are on.
We are developing the marine access and development regulations that will manage in terms of partnerships, joint ventures, and how much you get. Initially, our license system was we license you once and you harvest the whole year.
The government has also earmarked cash to settle the 10-month arrears or to French-based Collect Localization Satellites Monitoring Firm that checked fishing activities in the Indian Ocean.
Funds have been set aside to settle the matter so that now we are what happens in our waters on day-to-day basis or real-time basis is addressed and we are able to know what's happening. So this is being addressed.
Kenya loses between 11 and 26 million tons of seafood annually to illegal and unregulated fishing activities within her territorial waters.
From Kisumu, now we go to the coastal region where more than 2,000 delegates are expected to flock to Diani Beach, Kwale County for the 9th annual Connected Kenya Summit. The meeting that is expected to bring together private and public sector thought leaders will also take stock of Kenya's adoption of ICT services following disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Broadcasting Principal Secretary Esther Koimet has said the meeting will also deliberate on how to deepen investment in the IT sector to expand digital infrastructure in the country.
After a 3-year break, the Connected Kenya Summit is now back, and in the next 3 or 4 days, experts are expected to converge here to discuss various strategies to deepen ICT uptake in the country, as well as innovations that are needed to spur the growth of the sector.
We need to do a lot in that area because even though our connectivity is over 90%, the actual access is, I think around 30-something%. So there is a mismatch between the investment that we've made in terms of the, of the network that we have created and actual people taking up. And we think that it's to do with, devices and so on. And we are thinking about it, working with the MNOs, the mobile companies, to be able to see what can be done in that space, and even from a policy perspective to be able to see what we can do to ensure that we lower the cost of devices. It's an ongoing conversation, and as I said, the MNOs themselves are also in that conversation, and because they are the ones who sell the service, the mobile service, it's also they're in a good leadership position also to assist with this process.
So when it comes to ensuring that there's universal access to ICT infrastructure, that's in realization of the fact that ICT is key to growth of our development, even our developmental documents, our frameworks from the Vision 2030 does recognize that we do require ICTs to grow. So we do at the Ministry of ICT.
Now we move away from matters of business and get into the sporting arena, where the National Olympic Committee of Kenya President Paul Tergat has appealed to stakeholders and marketers to come out in large numbers and support sports in Kenya in any way. Now, Tergat said that most of the amateur sportspersons end up losing it all due to lack of motivation from the federation.
President of the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, Paul Tegat, says that the failure of federation to motivate athletes in the country is one of the reasons why athletes do not register good results in international competition.
Similarly, I implore with tremendous humility your support, the leaders and captains of our industry, to join the government in voting with your budgets and pockets from today towards Team Kenya in its journey to Paris 2024 Olympic Games and beyond.
NOC also called on the government to support the development of young talents, as they will be the country's flag bearers in future.
We have these memories of sports. We have our own President Tegat, who in the history has one of the closest finishes, and we know about it. We know about Kemboi dancing after winning. This is what Kenya is all about.
Well, that brings a cap to matters in the headlines. We're taking a quick break. When we're back, we're going to be sampling the various dailies that we have in studio with us. But before we cross over to matters, or rather take that quick break, I want to read a quote here by one of the famous economists you'll ever get to read, and that is Lao Tzu, who says, when taxes are too high, people go hungry. How about that breather?
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
Niache mimi na familia yangu tafadhali. Sitawahi kukusamehe mpaka kufa kwangu.
Dadako hata tuacha tuishi kwa amani.
Unawezaje kwenda kumuwafaza wakati wajua faza ndo tegemea lilonalolio peke yake?
Kwa kama ushatemwa usileteza ovu mimi hapa.
I give you a good lawyer akuwakilishe, what's the problem?
Mimi nitashinda vipi kesi wakili kama wewe utatoa ushahidi?
Ipo siku wakili utarudi ndani ya hii nyumba na hautanipata.
I can no longer keep his secret.
But what does that mean? What are you talking about, Santiago?
I'm talking about my father's mismanagement. I promise that I'll do something about Rogelio. I won't let you down this time.
Because I'm planning to transfer all of my interests in this company to someone else. Name is Mariela Salvatierra.
Ardo's mistress?
Yes.
Then let me see it.
Lying heart.
Keep abreast of the developments live from the National Assembly and the Senate.
On our members of parliament.
The questions.
When is the construction expected to commence?
The motions.
Beg to give notice of the following motion.
The debate.
Will as many as one opinion say aye?
The statements.
A statement on an issue of general topical concern.
The petitions.
Order number 4, petitions.
Stay tuned to KBC Channel 1 and Radio Taifa for live proceedings from both houses of parliament from Tuesday to Thursday. Live, uncensored, unedited. KBC, your national broadcaster.
Very well, and on to the dailies now. On the front page of the Star newspaper, Ruto's moment of truth as UDA holds primaries. Ruto's moment of truth as UDA holds primaries. DP will be walking a political tightrope as allies square off. The biggest contests are in Mount Kenya and Rift strongholds. Now, chaotic nominations could damage DP's image in Mount Kenya. That is what is happening in the country right now, with ODM still underway with that exercise. We will have a guest in studio here who already has a ticket in the pocket. Big win for slum schools in Form 1 placement. Professor George Magoha yesterday released names and Form 1 placement and said that all children who sat for the examination must be admitted to a school. All right, very quickly to second page. Doctors replace heart valve without surgery. It says that Patil says that Carlos' operation is good news for the medical fraternity. In this case, Patil is the doctor who undertook that procedure, and Carlos is the patient. And now they say that that is what is happening. All right. So there is a gentleman here in Kilimani who has sued his neighbor for allegedly spying on him. So Kilimani neighbor spies on me with CCTV, court told. Man says that next door neighbor uses her CCTV to spy on him and his family. And now he is compelling the court to compensate him for damages and for evading his privacy. That is happening in Kilimani. Tough times, all right? So, Ruto's moment of truth as UDA holds primaries. We have got different regions. In Kiambu, for example, we have got Ferdinand Waititu. We have got Kimani Wamatangi, Cleophas Lagat running for that seat in Nandi County. We have got Benjamin Chiboi, Baringo governor. We have got Stephen Sang, who is Nandi actually the incumbent Nandi governor, as well as Henry Kosgei, Nandi governor. Now let me give you a breakdown on how it looks like. In Kiambu County, we have got Ferdinand Waititu, Patrick Wainaina, Kimani Wamatangi. Nandi County, Stephen Sang. Actually, we have got 6 candidates in Nandi County. In Elgeyo Marakwet, we have 5 candidates. In Uasin Gishu, 4. Baringo County, 6 candidates. And Kericho County, 5 candidates. So it's a moment of truth. But in total, we have got 4,000 hopefuls who will be running in Rift Valley and 2,000 elsewhere, bringing that total number to 6,000 countrywide. All right, and finally, Raila flies to US next week after primaries to diaspora voters. Former Prime Minister is expected to hold town hall meeting in Washington, D.C., and that trip will take place on 21st of this month, just hours after ODM concludes party nominations. We'll be talking about party nominations, which is currently ongoing in different parts of the country, and with reports saying that former Funyula MP Paul Otuoma has bagged that gubernatorial ticket in Busia County with 49,000 votes, flooring Florence Mutua, who garnered 30,000 votes. Before I take it to Jen, Doreen, what do you have?
All right, so let's come to the People Daily, and perhaps we can begin with what is happening in Mombasa County, that is in respect to that gubernatorial race in that particular space. And this is after the entry of the former Nairobi governor, that is Mike Sonko. So will that in any way destabilize, or in what way will it shape how Mombasa County is going to look like, particularly when it comes to that gubernatorial race? This is obviously when Mike Sonko was joining the race, adding to the likes of Shabal, the businessman, as well as the current Mvita MP, that is Nasir. So this former governor was impeached in December of 2020, obviously due to issues of gross misconduct as well as violation of the constitution. This again is quite really interesting because you're also seeing the former Kiambu governor Waititu also again on the race. So what does this say about these governors who are impeached again getting back to the political space and the political race all together? So also we have matters to do with education there and seeing how affirmative action has really taken center stage to the placement of KCP candidates, or I mean the KCP candidates to high school, and this is part of what was used by the ministry. And just going by this particular report, it also shows that at least so far 1.2 million KCP exam candidates have found place in 9,200 public secondary school. And also what the ministry is saying is that as it is, 100% transition has been achieved in the Form 1 placement. We also have the issues to do with taxes, and this is just as it stands, whereby at least as of today afternoon, the National Assembly is set to debate the first reading of the finance bill. And even as this is happening, we are being told that Kenyans need to brace themselves as this bill seeks to introduce new taxes. Remember that while the CS was reading the budget, he had talked about the 10% excise duty being imposed in some commodities, which he didn't quite mention this commodity. So what does this really mean for Kenyans, given that time is really difficult and Kenyans are really living at a very difficult time with the hike of prices of different goods and products across the country? And also, lastly, the issue of drought and starvation continues to ravage the country, with the number rising to right now 3.1 million Kenyans, particularly in the arid and the semi-arid areas, and also the counties being affected rising to 28 so far in the country. You can remember that earlier on this year, the state had at least tried to mitigate the issue of drought, but as it stands, it just continues to affect the bigger part of the country, and particularly in those the north parts of the country, and also largely the arid and the semi-arid lands of Kenya. Jane.
Now, let me bring you back to the Daily Nation, but that was quite the question, Doreen. What does this mean when governors are impeached and then all of a sudden, before you know it, they're back vying for different gubernatorial seats in different counties? But let me start with the Daily Nation. The whole question concerning fuel, is it a question of hoarding, or what really is the situation? Oil marketers are under probe, and this particular piece focuses on information that is said to have been disclosed by high-ranking government official sources that confided, or rather disclosed this information to this particular daily, that they are the country's third largest oil marketer. The country's third largest marketer, that is Ruby's, is among those that are under watch for quote-unquote unreliable supplies due to what has been noted in their particular petrol stations. It stands out as having some queer shortages as well as having rationed sales, and this is contrary to what has been witnessed in the two leading oil marketers, that is Vivo and Total Energies, respectively. And according to this particular piece, they go on to say that this particular situation of having unreliable supplies is not really as dependable information as it could be, because it is said that they get their supply from the same source, and this is according to EPRA's inventory, showed that the total stock at where this particular three oil marketers get their sources by last week Thursday, the stocks were at 212 million liters for petrol and 188 million liters for diesel, which can be concluded to be sufficient stocks. So this particular situation that is being witnessed at the Ruby's petrol station is definitely under scrutiny, and they will be looking further and giving more information as and when that will be concluded. The main read on the front page of the Daily Nation: Kalonzo rocks Raila coalition. This comes just with about 2 weeks to go to when IEBC requires this particular party leaders, or rather coalition leaders, to name their running mates. Kalonzo Musyoka has thrown spanner in the works. Let me get this particular story. Yes, in the Azimio coalition deal, where he said there's some 3 particular areas of concern that he needs addressed when it comes to this particular coalition agreement that was submitted on the 9th of April. Number 1 is the question of the running mate. Number 2 was the withdrawal of certain clauses that were amended and altered without the consent of all the parties and signatories. And number 3, the expansion of the members of the coalition council from the initial 7 to 11, saying, and this is meant to accommodate some rebelling groups that are led by Governor Mutua. These are the points of concern that were raised by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka. And finally, the question on picking a running mate, that has also been captured here on this particular daily. It is a tough balancing act for Raila and Ruto when it comes to picking a running mate, with only 2 weeks to go, as is required by the IEBC, the deadline being set on the 28th of April. They have, which will actually be just 6 days after the end of the primaries. They have until then to choose their potential running mates. But according to this particular daily, looking at the names that have been fronted by the particular parties, looking at Dr. Ruto's fold, we have Musalia Mudavadi, Speaker Justin Muturi, we have Rigathi Gachagua, Anne Waiguru, Kathure Kindiki, as well as Alice Wahome, and Ndindi Nyoro. Those are the ones that have been fronted when it comes to Dr. Ruto's side. However, still looking at Gachagua, Waiguru, Wahome, and Nyoro, they are still seeking to defend their current positions. On Mr. Odinga's side, the names that have been fronted as potential running mates are Kalonzo Musyoka, we have Peter Kenneth, Martha Karua, and Peter Munya. And most recently, we did see Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua also express his interest in this particular role. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what has been captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. Regina.
Sneak peek onto the Standard. Form 1, big rush for national schools. This exercise started off yesterday. A lot of reactions from guardians and parents there about the selection. Some who have been, called to schools that are very far off from where they reside, and more so day schools. So parents are asking, how do they get reprieve? Is it back to the drawing board and looking for private schools following, Form 1 placement? Now from the courts is that Chief Magistrate Martha Mutuko suspended the 19 million shillings graft case against Malindi MP until August to give her time to seek votes. That is also getting me thinking, so what if she's found guilty of that issue? What happens? And what role does the integrity clause play in as far as elective politics is concerned? Those questions are likely to be answered under People and on Politics in not too long. Then fuel shortage bites ahead of the price review. We expect that EPRA is going to be giving the new prices for the month in the next 2 days, which happens to be 14th. And on a spot check there carried out by KBC Channel 1 indicated that fueling stations that had that particular commodity, and we're talking about petrol, was characterized by long queues and rationing to at least petrol worth 1,000 shillings. Ahead of the festivities, some of the issues that Kenyans are having with that particular situation, or the situation we find ourselves in, is that are they going to be traveling to the countryside for the Easter holidays? We'll be keeping tabs on that, given that it is one of the trending topics on Twitter this morning. Hashtag fuel shortage. And the question is, umeweka ngata wapi? Where have you fueled, and when was the last time that you fueled? These are the questions that Kenyans are asking each other on that particular platform, maybe to just help, direct a fellow motorist to where fuel is available. Now, across the African continent, in Somalia, over 350,000 children are at a risk of dying, and this is the ripple effect of drought that has escalated to starvation there. Just yesterday, the government flagged off a consignment of relief food headed to Marsabit as the drought continues to bite there.
And as far as matters politics across the counties are concerned, is that 8 women are in a race to succeed Sabina Chege in the position that she previously held. We'll be getting into details as we speak matters of politics. And now talking about politics, the headache about the running mate, or rather the deputy president now. Around Azimio's Kalonzo wants on changes in deal. In this particular kicker is that leaders ask the registrar of political parties not to recognize amended coalition agreements, say what they signed was altered without their consent. Is it the first time that we've heard that, whatever a politician penned, or rather the deal, this was not the deal that we had agreed to? Well, your guess is as good as mine. We've had it even when it came to the changeover for Nairobi County there, with embattled former Governor Mike Sonko coming out and saying that he really doesn't know, or he did not know whatever he had penned, or rather he had agreed to. Now it is the turn of Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, who says it is apparent. This is a letter to the registrar of political parties. It is apparent that the agreement lodged on 1st April was withdrawn and certain clauses amended or altered without the consent of all parties. That is what is happening in as far as matters politics are concerned. And talking about careers and journalism is that a group of ladies under Amwick have said more women are joining newsrooms, but few have risen to top positions. Now, this was in a meeting that was held by women in media, and some of the sentiments that were shared. We have Mercy Njoroge, who's a trainer journalist for human rights. She said women were allocated soft gigs like entertainment and fashion, leaving the hard gigs of economy, politics and sports to men. On the other hand, Joseph Odindo, a media consultant, he is of opinion that historically there were few women entering journalism. The culture at the time was chauvinistic, hostile and male dominated. On Judy Kaberia, who is the Amwick executive director, opines that sexual harassment, pay disparities and career stagnation undermine the worth of female journalists and push them out of the newsroom. This was a forum that was attended and organized by Association of Media Women in Kenya, Amwick. So 35% is the top management of Kenyan media, according to research commissioned by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, while 26% is a portion of government roles globally in new organizations that were held by women in 2011. Now, Amwick has pushed for hard, reasonable policies to make the newsroom hospitable for women. Remember, as we marked the International Women's Day, the slogan was and the theme was breaking the bias. That's just but a sneak peek of what we have on our various dailies. The conversation continues right here on KBC Channel 1. And now we're going to be fully focusing on what is happening in the political scene with my colleague, Victor Olo. To you, Victor.
Stop using your son as an excuse. Don't expect me to cover for you and deceive others. That's not gonna happen.
If the accusation is confirmed, the president will be the first one accountable. You've brought all of this upon yourself. It's no one else's fault. You deserve all of this. Sign the agreement now.
I must destroy Jack's life completely to avenge the baby I lost.
Wise Windsors. Phone in your purse.
Mundos divididos por una sombra
I can no longer keep his secret.
But what does that mean? What are you talking about, Santiago?
I'm talking about my father's mismanagement. I promise that I'll do something about Rogelio. I won't let you down this time.
Because I'm planning to transfer all of my interests in this company to someone else. Name is Mariela Salvatierra.
Roberto's mistress?
Yes.
Then let me see it.
Lying heart.
Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición.
Welcome back. Now it's time for People and Politics, and today we want us to focus on issues of nations, which is currently ongoing across the country, with ODM still having that exercise. Yesterday, ODM former Funyula MP, that is Paul Otuma, bagged that ticket in Busia County, garnering 49,300 thereabout votes, flooring other candidates, and that is something good for the party. While that was happening, chaos also reported in different parts of the country when the exercise is happening. And as we speak, we have UDA also ready to start their grassroots this week. So we are waiting to see how that will pan out, with other experts saying that it's going to a moment of test for the Deputy President William Ruto in central part of Kenya and Rift Valley. How will it play out? All right, I have got two gentlemen. Dr. Richard, Dr. Rotich here with me in studio,
Thank you so much.
Who is an economist by profession, but decided to say that, you know, politics is in his blood. That's why he's red. There you have it.
But not Kanu.
He will tell us why, as well as Emilio, who is an aspirant in Embu County. There you have him. We have got Emilio Kathuri, who is a gubernatorial aspirant in Embu County, and says that he's one of the lucky fellas to be given that direct ticket come Thursday. Right? Welcome to the show, Emilio.
Thank you. Thank you.
Karibu sana. Gentlemen, to start with you, Daktari, the economy is still in shambles, so to speak.
I think
the budget was read last week,
yeah,
and the fuel prices are still soaring high and high.
Although I think as an economist, when we talk about the prices of goods and services,
yes,
and we also talk about the revenue that the government gets. I've been hearing people jostling, talking about the prices, talking about all these things. The government cannot task those things that are not moving. They have to task those things that are highly moving, because the government needs revenue. And while it is actually, it is very painful as far as the citizens are concerned, because most of the prices of most essentials goods, food, fuel, the way we are experiencing now, I think it is something that this country will face it for some time now. And what you should know, Olo, is that the taxable capacity in this country is quite narrow. Taxable capacity means those people or those entities which are capable of being taxed in this country, they are quite few. We don't have so many of them. And in this case, the few that can be taxed are the goods that we are using on daily basis. Talk about bread, talk about grains, talk about Of course, you talk about UNGA, which of course is being spoken now. And I will have the UDA party actually taking over that one, that it is illegal. I mean, it is making the current budget somehow illegal or punitive. But in my own judgment or law, you see, the government needs money to run the country. And the only way they can get the money is to put taxes in place, taxing all these things that we use on a daily basis. So we need to balance the two. How much we should tax and how much we should actually, we have to look at the welfare of the Kenyans and at the same time look at the welfare of the government itself. When I talk about welfare of the government, I mean the revenue that the government can get out of the sales that they are able to tax. So in this case, I can tell you economy is soaring very, very high as far as the prices are concerned. And if that is not checked, it will put this country in chaos. Because if people cannot put the food on their table, if people cannot get the fertilizers, like now in most places they were not able to get to plant their seeds on time. They were not able to plant them to do their farming on time because of high prices of inputs, which we are witnessing in the whole country.
All right. Okay, Emilio, let me get to your opening remarks.
Thank you, Victor. It is true. I'm the only aspirant under Jubilee in Embu County, and I know I have all what it takes to back that seat. On matters the economy, it is also very unfortunate that prices have to soar. But we also have to be realistic and know that even in those developed countries, products, consumer goods, bread, meat, prices are not cheap. They are not low. It's just that the government has to look at a way of balancing for people to have income so that they can be able to buy the products.
Yes.
And at the same time, government will also collect enough revenue so that they can be able to sustain the economy. What do I mean? Like now this issue of the stipend that is, let me call it a stipend, that is normally given to the age of a 70. If they can be able to stabilize that, that is what will cushion those people who are vulnerable. If the government will also be able to subsidize the fertilizers and other inputs, it would also make the low-end citizen, in terms of capacity to produce, capacity to generate, in terms of income, that would cushion that person so that they can all end up on the same level, not equal, but at least in a way to console them, so that when you are paying, you also know that the government is also assisting you to at least have food on the table. Issues like drugs in hospitals, when patients go to hospitals and find that they cannot be able to get the drugs, that is now where frustration creeps in, and that is now when even if the economy is performing as much as we've been told that it is growing on a double digit or 7% or whichever. That does not make any sense when the Kenyan citizen is not able to access medicine from government hospitals conveniently.
And that's what you're promising to deliver to the members?
By the way, that is my first agenda. Health. Because there is no way you can stay with people who are not healthy, even if you give them education, even if you give them water, even if you give them roads. For what?
But that seems like most of the politicians are giving, it's like a copy-paste kind of a manifesto.
It will depend on how one will roll out his manifesto or that agenda. Because like me, I believe that there is no way we can be able to even provide cover, like the way NHIF does, but at the county level, and make sure that it is only available to those who are ROCOM, because if the revenue is from within Embu County, then it is the Embu residents who should be able to have that card for them to access facilities in hospitals when they are not going to incur any expenses. And those hospitals to also be equipped so that they also don't go there and find that they are empty. It is very unfortunate because right now, if you happen to contract one of these diseases, that force you to be quarantined. you will die in those hospitals.
Yeah.
Like cholera. You will be admitted and you cannot be moved from one hospital to the other. But when the hospital has no drugs, it also becomes a very big challenge.
Yes.
So we also must make sure that the hospitals have drugs. It is not a toronda, but also make sure that the drugs are in those hospitals and charged appropriately so that they also don't run broke. And also make sure that the patients who come from Embu are also getting the subsidy through the county government.
And that is replicated across the country.
And I believe that I'll be able to work it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me just bring you, Doctor, because you know, when politicians speak,
I think, Olo, I want to appreciate my brother here.
Yes.
And when you talk about most of the politicians actually duplicating or copy-pasting the manifestos, I think there is no way a politician, the only difference that these people, can be different is the implementation of these projects.
Yes.
I can tell you, Olo, this country have the best proposal writers. They have the best manifestos. But what is making the whole different is the way they are implementing in different places. Like what Jubilee manifesto was. We have counties that have really manifested a lot of development. And we have others who are using the same manifesto who have not done anything on the ground. How can we explain that one? So what we can safely say, I come from Kericho Law, whereby I've been campaigning for one of the contenders by the name Dr. Eric Mutai. This is a new fellow. He's a lecturer at the university, was in Embu. And the reason why I chose to help this guy is because he's a new brand of young, energetic leaders. Away from those who are perceived, away from those who were known before. And the biggest problem that we have been having in Kericho is the same one that my brother is talking about. The health facility has been run down. The roads are pathetic. Yet they have, the county government is getting a lot of money. You talk about drugs, which are so expensive. You go to the hospital, they have become actually the centers of writing only prescriptions. And then the patients are left to go and fetch for the drugs outside the premises of the facility. And this is the worst thing that can happen all over. Because if you don't take care of the health, that means you are making the county actually vulnerable in anything that they are doing.
I just hope the county leadership is listening to your sentiments, Dr.
They have to do so, because let me tell you, Lord, there is nothing secret in this country. We are a growing democracy, and people are talking their minds. On the streets, it is no longer whatever we are saying is no longer within the confines of some few individuals or leaders. When you go to the streets, you get people there. We have what we call parliament in the streets.
Bunge la Wananchi.
Bunge la Wananchi.
Right.
They took the same senses. They feel the same heat on the ground, and they express what they would like their county government to look like.
That's the same heat that nominations people are experiencing right now. Just to bring you in, Emilio, because you know the heat of nomination. He's talked about the Mwananchi feeling the heat in terms of economy and what have you. But then now, how did it feel when you are looking for that party ticket?
Okay. Before I get to the issue of nominations, I also wanted just to clarify that the issue of us coming up with manifestos that look alike, they are almost identical. It's just for the obvious reasons that we are not inventing the wheel. These are things that are pertinent to our communities. The only issue is how we implement them. Some of us have a track record where we've been, and for us to even be picked as candidates, we have our own past history.
Yes.
That is what has been driving us to also become that visible, to be considered as eligible for the gubernatorial positions. I can proudly say that I'm the founder, chairman of the group known as Nenosako, and the way I run it, hands-on, is what made me even become the member of parliament for Manyata constituency.
Yes.
And I won against an incumbent minister, and I had no money, and I won. So it is how you implement. When some of us are hands-on, you don't expect it to be the same way with those others who just talk and go. Otherwise, that is on the side of why the implementation is what will carry the day, even when manifestos are identical. Matters nomination.
It's chaotic.
It is chaotic.
We've seen it across the country. Mombasa, we saw it. Even in Homa Bay, Peter Kaluma actually is complaining that they want the National Elections Board of ODM to give them a clear picture of how that thing is going to be done. Kaluma complaining in Homa Bay County, it's chaotic.
Victor, it is everywhere. As I'm sitting here, I didn't sleep enough yesterday night.
Why?
Because in Embu we don't have our primaries are not that big scale, because the gubernatorial does not have any contest under Jubilee.
Yes.
Senatorial, we have some issues to sort out, so it was also not there. Women rep, it is also not that serious because they are only two and there are matters that are being resolved. Parliamentary, it was also easy. But now come to the MCA level. Things are not as easy. Only that in some wards, you find that we have been able to strike a deal, a balance between the candidates. But in some, it became almost impossible. And yesterday afternoon, we subject them to some primaries of some kind. But even the rules that we had set for them to be forward, the very, very aspirants did not conform to our expectations in terms of, we don't want you to interfere, we want you to stay here so that we can send people on the ground with your supporters and a crack for them to go in all the wards and confirm the popularity rating of the individuals. But when we were saying that is when they were making calls, is when others were looking for the agents to go ahead of the group that is going interviewing people. We were hearing that there are some who are already hidden in some places trying to give out money for people to be patient waiting on the road. You know, it is chaotic.
Yes.
When you also look at places like Homa Bay, is it? No. Paulo Toma is from...
In Busia County.
Busia County.
Yes.
We were with him in Parliament. He was a strong man. But even when you are strong, there are others who still feel that they can defeat you. I'm not saying that it was done fairly.
Yes.
But you find that even when there is fairness, that other person who may be looking at it as if it is unfair may come complaining to try and see how he can justify a repeat process.
Yes.
He may also be connected by way of whether business or relationship, Brad, to one of the other senior personalities within the party.
Yes.
So he may imagine that he can use that drink to try and present his case and give it some merit.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you find that if you are not connected through business, you are connected through family. If you are not connected through family, you are connected through friends. So you find that every other candidate has a link with the top.
Okay. You know what happens? Daktari, they say that Jubilee is dead. We have got an aspirant almost about to get a ticket a day after Thursday. Jubilee is not dead.
I think, although it is in public domain that Jubilee reformed itself recently, I can say it revived itself. When you talk about reviving, means you are bringing into life that which was dead. Because why should we have a new logo?
The president said that they were at work. It was not dead.
But let me tell you, Olo.
You're accusing a Jubilee member.
Let me tell you, Olo. This is something that is very.
Was Jubilee dead? Before you continue, was Jubilee dead?
It was not dead at all. I was a member of Jubilee.
Okay, what happened? Now that we are all told that Jubilee was dead.
Let me put it very clearly.
Right.
Daktari, that is your perception. I don't want to get into it, but I would want to put the record straight. The fact that the sitting members of parliament decided, in some areas, decided to abandon the party does not mean that it was dead. It's just that for them, they thought that they were better off elsewhere. And the fact that it had a lesser number of sitting members of parliament, members of county assemblies, is what was making people see as if it is dead. And In politics, right now I'm talking here, there are people who are watching, they are seeing Jubilee. When there is nobody who is always ready to talk every other morning about the Jubilee, that is the perception that can be created.
Okay.
It was not.
Dr. Was Jubilee dead?
Let me tell you, Olo, what was the issue of reviving, even if it is you? Why was there a need? And when you talk about over 160 members of parliament decamping the party, Olo, and having heard also some people saying we were entrusted with the responsibility of finishing up this party, because the perception that was there before is that the deputy president was going to contest in the same party, the party that he helped to bring about all the whatever coalition, the parties which were there before. So when they realized that the deputy president was more wiser than them, by coming up with a new party, that is UDA, they now realized they were all alone. Those who were actually tasked with the responsibility of killing the party, mainly to make sure that the deputy president was going to contest in the same. Now, when they realized that they were now helpless because the UDA had been formed, the majority members of parliament of Jubilee had already decamped. Now they were only remaining with a shell. It is now alive. It is now alive. They have revived. But take the word revived. They have revived.
Right.
So as my brother is saying, even he knows, he was a member, but he was a member of a dormant party, which is now alive.
Which is now alive.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what really happens? Because when you talk of the Jubilee Party, most of those members are talking about now decamped and formed a UDA party. UDA soon starting their nominations.
Yes.
The deputy president is facing an uphill task in Central and in Rift Valley with several names. Name them. We all know how it's going to pan out. But then now, what is your projection? Based on what we've seen, because we've seen consensus from different boardrooms. We've even seen the deputy president trying to bring consensus from different regions. What is your projection?
Aspirants will cry.
Yes.
And in quote, will cry. Because if there is any primaries that will be extremely unfair, it is a UDA. Watch this space.
What do you mean? Oshimea, what do you mean?
Because of what I just commented about, those who think that they are connected, those who think that they have the money to muscle the voters, those who think that they are from a region that they should be controlling, those who think that they started working with the party leaders very early, so they feel that they are entitled. Many will go crying. And I can tell you, the issue of it is a strong party, yes. I'm not saying that it is not strong, but it is only strong in its own definition.
No.
And the fact that yes, Victor, the fact that it has a presidential candidate gives it some advantage in some areas. The fact that it has been there for the last 4 years, even though not under the name UDA, because we started seeing divergent views from the Jubilee position quite early. That is when the rain started beating all the politicians, whether in Jubilee or in UDA. And to me, the solution would not have been actually to go and form another party. Why not fight from within? If you think that you are strong, the best thing would have been to sit and make a decision when you are within Jubilee. Because even there will still be those
some would argue that because since the deputy president and his boss were not on the same page, they had to go separate ways. And the deputy president knew very well that the president's term is coming to an end this time, so he had to get a bus to steer him to the next general election to vie for the presidential ticket. That is, according to me, why UDA was formed. Dr. What do you think?
I think, although we don't want to concentrate so much about why UDA was formed. It is in public domain.
It is in public domain.
What is very key here, although as my brother said, for those who are expecting that the UDA party will face problems during nomination, they will be in for huge surprises.
And you see, this is the first nomination exercise.
In fact, all the candidates have been assured that their bosses are the people on the grassroots. There are those, even Ruto himself, the deputy president, has been actually in the records telling the aspirants that in fact, it is you and the people on the ground. Whether the people will produce on the ground that is the leader that I'm also expecting as your candidate, as your presidential candidate. So there are those people. I mean, there are no sacred cows in UDA. Those who are in UDA are directly addressable to the people to produce the results. And I don't see where there would be a point of contention.
All right. Okay. Dr. Just before that, your mic is going to be fixed briefly. No problem. But just to bring you up to speed in that, in the next few minutes, in the next 10 or 15 minutes, we're going to Radio Taifa, where we'll be joining Mwajuma Ali and Rashid Mwamkondo, where they'll be discussing gender, money, and elections in studio. And there we have got Professor Wanjiku Kabira, who is a gender and development expert as well as lecturer, University of Nairobi. They are going to be having that discussion very well. That is in Zinga. That is going to be happening in Radio Taifa. That joining Mwajuma and Rashid Mwamkondo. And today we are talking about issues to do with nominations. Emilio, the fact that nominations are happening right now. ODM is almost coming, closing the exercise. What is a projection? Because now we've seen, in different parts of the country, chaos, complaints here and there. Is this a real precursor to what you're likely to see in August?
I believe that the government has all what it takes to put all systems in place for us to ensure that for every other candidate to ensure that there will be fair play.
Yes.
And primaries have been known to always be that way. If you recall what happened with the wiper before it broke off from ODM, there was even a neutral which was carried.
Yes.
Those are the years. If you recall during the days of NDP and Agina Ford, that has always been the case. But to me, even after all that is done, we still go to the main elections and you still see sobriety.
Yes.
And even now, I don't see anything different. There will still be order and sanity. Because I can tell you, people are not voting for parties.
Individuals.
Parties are only symbols.
Yeah.
Like me, I'm in Jubilee. It is not Jubilee which will give me votes. It is my connection with the people on the ground. It is not UDA which will give votes. It is the connection of the candidate with the crowd. It is not ODM. As much as we know there are some areas where maybe one party may be dominating. But on the overall, we have seen people like Akina Mheshimiwa Okoth Obando winning when he is in a party that is not popular in
This is PDP.
PDP.
Yes.
And that is what is going to happen. This is just a confirmation of the final, let me call it the August election. Will still be fair despite all these challenges. And I believe, as much as there will also be a complaint,
yes,
you cannot expect when you score anything beyond 60%, you have passed.
Okay, you know what, Dr. Because when you score something above 60%, you are good, home and dry. But look at, for example, in Kiambu County, for the deputy president, we have got Ferdinand Waititu, we have got Kimani Wamatangi. In a bigger part of Rift Valley, we have got Cleophas Lagat, Nandi governor. We have got Benjamin Chiboy, Baringo governor, Stephen Sang, Nandi governor, and Henry Kosgei, who is a seasoned politician, Nandi governor. Big names for the DP.
I think, Olo, as I told you, in this race in UDA, there will be no sacred cows. Whether you are big or small, dwarf, all these guys will face the election, and it is the electorate who will determine who will be their leader.
Right.
So in this case, I'm not anticipating about any fallout in UDA after this nomination exercise. And what I can assure you, Olo, is that the plan, everything will go as planned, and those who will be defeated and those who will win, they will have to concede for the sake of the unity of the party. And I think that is what all the aspirants have been informed, that if there will be a fallout among the disagreement, was the first disagreed with the system whereby some candidates were picked or given tickets direct. And that is what poisoned up the whole thing. And I told you, during our last discussion, that the only way And the best way is to allow the people to elect their own leaders.
Yeah.
And that would have happened without any hitch. But now whereby you have some favoritism, I mean from the top, based on some unknown poll results, such a person is popular. And I told you these pollsters, they are in business, and they can say anybody is rated high. And that one cannot be a reliable means to pick the candidate. So the best thing is to allow the people to elect their own leaders. Through a voting.
That is consensus, which you've seen. Even the deputy president, actually the two gentlemen they've completely disappeared from the limelight and disappeared in a boardroom. Consensus. It's that tough.
Victor, I wanted to tell my colleague here,
yes,
Dr. Otichi, the truth of the matter is, where you imagine that the voters are able to pick their best candidates, it is also true that infiltration will take place by those, because we are not going to the primaries with the membership cards. We are going to the primaries with the voters cards. And you find that even those who are in Jubilee would want to vote in a candidate in UDA who they perceive to be weaker. These are things that are there. So there are times when the party may have to use other forms of picking a candidate, rather than going to the direct nominations as we know them. And it is happening everywhere. ODM, UDA, Jubilee, where there is, and I started by saying that where there is no consensus is when you subject the aspirants to the open primaries. That is something that must also be accepted as a form of picking candidates, and it is very effective as much as it is not conclusive. There are areas where you may not be able to go that way. And that is also why I could call the bandwagon. That is why he may have been rejected. It was only for him to win with a PDP.
Right.
We recall somebody like former Nairobi governor. He had been rejected in Makandara. He came in with Naki Kenya. He won. So it is bound, and he had been rejected by the other parties because he was considered not competitive enough to win that seat, and they knew the infiltration would take place. So it is also good for us to be aware that it is not only one formula that will make you be able to pick a candidate from the primaries.
Dr. your take?
I think we are not that expertized in this country, and of course there are other mechanisms. Like now, if we were to go by party membership, whereby if all the parties would have registered their own members and we use the party register, I think that would have really be the best method, actually, that will vet the people. But now that you are going with an ID or registered through the IEPC center, polling station, I mean that one, as he has said, there are other places where I've heard in some regions whereby the other fellows will vote during the day of voting when they know that the independent candidate is actually to the coming election. So in this nomination, they will vote for a weaker candidate in a particular party which is perceived to be very popular, so that he will be defeated during the final election. So in that case, those are some of the horse tradings that are actually happening. And of course, we cannot deny, because there are loopholes in the whole process.
Then again, that is dangerous.
It is very dangerous. It is very dangerous.
Down to it has a ripple effect to self-delivery at the end of the day.
As the governor said, that this thing is not watertight because of the process that has got a very weak process. And in this case, if the IPC was the one actually organizing for this election, I think it would have been a better place. But the people who are organizing are less educated. They're less trained. They are not experts, and they don't have even the manpower. And also, it will depend entirely on how security will be provided. Some will cook their own way, they will corrupt their own way, and they will still win.
Yes, UDA is a new party, and the deputy president is now, the front runner for the top seat come August. And they are having their primaries for the first time. What do you think is going to come out of it?
I think
it's like a litmus test.
UDA is of age. Although let me just tell you, within
I'm saying it's a new party compared to
short span of
time, to Jubilee, ODM, which is 17 years old.
Let me tell you, Lord.
Yes.
The people who are in these other parties, are none other than His Excellency the Deputy President. He was in Jubilee. He was also in, some time back, he was in ODM. I mean, these other parties.
He was in Kano.
He was in Kano. All these fellows, I mean, they have been in these parties. So they are equal in experience. The way they are managing UDA, as much as it's a young party, the people who are managing are long-serving politicians who have also a lot of wealth of experience. And I don't see anything wrong with the new party. That is a new name, but the same people.
Yeah. All right, that's a good way to coin it.
My only comment on that one.
A new party, but with old names.
What kills democracy, what kills many of the activities worldwide is our confidence. If you think you are too rich, you think you can assume people. If you think you are too powerful, you think you can be able to trend on others. If you think you have all the goodwill, you start doing bad things to them. Overconfidence. That is my only concern. And some of these people who have been in politics for too long also may be suffering from that major complex. That is my closing comment.
Not your major comment. That's not a closing comment. We're still continuing the show. Okay. I'm likely to ask you because this question. You are getting a direct nomination because you're the only contender in Embu County under Jubilee ticket. And we've seen in Homa Bay, for example, there was a direct ticket which brought a lot of issues with now former governor, Dr. Evans Kidero, saying that he's going to run as an independent candidate. What do you make of this? Because some people say that while consensus is okay, direct ticket is okay, because of different reasons, either to curb issues of overspending of the party, time management and infiltration, so to speak, the people are left behind. What do you think?
This process of even picking a candidate when he or she is not subjected to the primaries, the direct primaries as we know them, is not a process that is normally done without involving the people. Only that it is not made public. It is done, but not made so public. What do I mean? Like now, when you go and conduct opinion polls on the ground, and as a thing, to what extent is popularity rating? Then you are able to agree that let us talk with these candidates and show them the figures. It is also true, all of us, if you're in politics and you're in politics with a passion, you must be doing your own opinion polls. When you also see that what you are seeing laid on the table is also what you have also come across from those who may have conducted it for you, then you are bound to accept.
Yes.
But there must also be some other considerations which will also make you accept. Because like now, if you withdraw and back up the one considered to be more suitable, then you are also sure that should you win, you'll be one of those who will be in the system.
Okay.
There are many reasons why you can, even when you are equally strong, why you can also withdraw, because from your side, the region, because the demographics must come in also.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me, when are you getting your certificate?
We believe it is anytime after Thursday.
Anytime after Thursday. Wish you all the best. Dr. We'll have him next time. Now that once he's receive his certificate.
And I'll be more than willing to come.
Absolutely. Allow me to end it there because I'm told that we are running out of time and we want to cross over to Radio Taifa. We are having a discussion. They'll be having, that is Mwajuma Ali and Rashid Mwamkondo will be having a discussion on gender, money and elections, how it's going to be pan out. It's still politics. We are in a political season. But in studio here, being joined by Emilio Kathure, who is now presumed to be the Jubilee gubernatorial candidate in Embu County under Jubilee ticket, as well as Dr. Rotich. That is all we were able to serve you on this particular breakfast. Let's take a break, and when we come back, straight to Radio Taifa.
Thank you. What do you do?
preliminary run to Olympia Stadion in Berlin is now less crowded, with only 4 teams out of 64 still in contention. Something more outstanding is that all of the sides to have won the DFB Pokal over the last 29 years are already out this year.
And Leverkusen are knocked out by a Bundesliga 2 side.
In the first DFB Pokal semi-final, Hamburger SV will face Freiburg on Tuesday, the 19th of April 2022 at 9:45 p.m. While in the second semi-final, RB Leipzig will lock horns with Union Berlin on Wednesday, the 20th April 2022 at 9:45 p.m. Having braced the turbulent journey and buoyed up with the trophy in sight, no team want to go down without a fight. You don't want to miss this adventurous football show, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Niache mimi na familia yangu tafadhali. Sitawahi kukusamehe mpaka kufa kwangu.
Dadako hata tuacha tuishi kwa amani.
Unawezaje kwenda kumuwafaza wakati wajua faza ndo tegemea alilonalolio peke yake?
Kwa kama ushatemwa usileteza ovu mimi hapa.
I give you a good lawyer, akuwakilishe. What's the problem? Mimi nitashinda vipi kesi wakili kama wewe utatoa ushahidi?
Ipo siku wakili, utarudi ndani ya hii nyumba na hautanipata.
Kabwatuteguk ngimache iyat muguleldangu ngimache imanguge nyangebe kiputinai lale kimi kibagenge lale Kitwek FM kigosi Kitwek FM kigosi
98.0 Kitwek FM kigosin.
Kabisa mtazamaji wa KBC Channel 1 mahali popote ulipo, ni asubuhi nyingine tena ya siku ya Jumanne tunapokutana ndani ya mchakato mzima wa kipindi Zinga kwenye KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya, kipindi ambacho vile vile pia msikilizaji kinakujia kupitia runinga yako unayoipenda KBC Channel 1 kwenye kipindi Good Morning Kenya, na ikiwa na wingi wa matumaini kwamba ubuheri wa siha mahali popote ulipo, basi karibu kwenye awamu ya Gumzo Pevu. Mimi naitwa Rashid Momkondo.
Basi kando yake mimi nafahamika kama Mwajuma Ali, ukipenda niite Chozi la Almasi. Msikilizaji, dakika ni 7 zimekatika baada ya saa 2 na hatutopoteza muda wowote Rashid. Naona kwamba ndani ya studio tayari mama wetu amependeza kweli na ameweza kujumuika na sisi katika awamu yetu hii ya Gumzo Pevu, ikiwa yeye ni mwanamke shupavu katika nchi hii. Tutakuwa tunamuelezea mengi zaidi, lakini karibu sana, kabla hatujamtambulisha, karibu sana mama na umependeza.
Asante.
Naam.
Bila shaka ni sauti yake Profesa Wanjiku Kabira ambaye amekuwa katika sekta ya umma kwa miaka mingi. Msikilizaji, kumbuka yeye amekolea katika masuala ya utawala, masuala ya kijinsia, masuala ya sera na vile vile pia kumbuka profesa ni mhadhiri wa chuo kikuu cha Nairobi.
Okay, na vile vile msikilizaji ni mkurugenzi Kabira katika ya umma miaka mingi tu, amekuwa akihudumia umma miaka mingi, na yeye pia amekolea katika taasisi ya jinsia katika chuo hicho, yani African Women Studies Center. Na Profesa Wanjiku Kabira vile vile ni kiongozi wa mpango wa kuimarisha wanawake kiuchumi, yani WEE katika taasisi hiyo.
Zaidi ya yote mtazamaji ni kwamba Profesa Kabiri alikuwa makamu mwenyekiti wa ile commissioner katika Constitutional Review Process ikijulikana kama CKRC. Na hii leo tukiwa naye Profesa Kabiri, basi tutaangazia masuala ya kijamii, kiuchumi, kisiasa na nafasi ya wanawake katika kuwania masuala mbalimbali. Kumbuka historia yake ni ndefu, tukisema tunaiendeleza hapa hatutaimaliza. Basi bila kupoteza nukta, sekunde wala dakika, karibu sana tena mgeni wetu ndani ya studio.
Asante Rashid.
Nafurahi sana kukuona asubuhi hii na uko salama buheri wa afya. Labda tu nikianza na swali la kwanza, Profesa, umekuwa ukipigania haki za wanawake tangu mwaka wa 1992. Je, nafasi ya mwanamke hadi kufikia sasa nchini Kenya unaiona iko katika hali gani?
Asante sana kwa kuniita kwa hii radio TV. Nimefurahi kuingia, lakini mtanisamehe ikiwa Kiswahili yangu si nzuri kutosha, lakini nitajaribu vile nitajaribu. Nafikiri tumeenda pali. Ukiangalia kama leo lakini nasikia vibaya kidogo tu kwa sababu nimesikia Mrs. Honorable Mutua lost the governorship
in Busia.
Yeah, in Busia. Nilikuwa nikifikiri hata nilingojea usiku nisikie kama ataingia, lakini hakuingia, lakini namjua kwa sababu alikuwa women rep, kwa the last 5 years, na nilikuwa chair wa GAF, National Government Affirmative Action Fund, na ninajua mnafanya kazi vizuri sana. Tutauliza watu wa Busia wampatie kiti ingine. Na ninafikiri wamefanya vizuri kwa sababu huyu ni mama wa kutoka Ukabani na ameolewa Busia, na watu wa Busia wamemchagua hata women rep. Hiyo ni kusema hata watu wa Busia wako ahead kusaidia akina mama, na tunaona mambo kama hiyo inaendelea vizuri. Kwa sababu ya katiba tuna hiyo affirmative action ya 47 women, kwa hivyo tumesaidika, na tunaona hata hawa kwenda through elections, regular elections, wako ndani. Tulikuwa wachache sana 1992, lakini leo tunaona tumeendelea mbele. Tunaona wengine hata kwa private sector wameendelea mbele, kama yule mama in charge of breweries. Hata kwa serikali naona leo tuna Auditor General ni mwanamke, yule Salaries Commission ni mwanamke, na wengi wengine. Kwa hivyo tunaendelea mbele.
Professor, on that note, you're also free to express yourself in English, don't worry, because you're also live on TV. Good morning, Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. So I think we are making progress. We have made good progress, but we also acknowledge that women can be in positions of leadership, but there are some things that are not changing structurally. For instance, the politics, continues to be violent. The way people speak, the way people behave themselves, even inside the same house and so on. But you want a democratic nation. You want a nation that respects everyone's rights, both men and women, and therefore they have opportunities to be themselves and to contribute, significantly to the growth of this nation. Kwa hivyo ninaona tunaendelea, lakini we still have a long way to go. We still have a long way to go. So I think we are making progress, but we are not there. The fact that we did not get affirmative action for 10 years since the Constitution was, promulgated, shows that there is still resistance to women in top leadership positions. And women tried for those 10 years. And I think, but progress is slow, because we are talking about patriarchy, which has been there for thousands of years. So any little progress we celebrate, and I think we will move. We will do better, and the rest of the African region is also moving. In fact, we are moving faster than the rest of the world, particularly in terms of representation. About Rwanda, about other East African countries where they have reached more than 30%. Uganda is a good example. Tanzania, many other places in Africa are making great progress. Kwa hivyo tumefurahi sana kwa sababu tunaona tunaendelea mbele, na ni lazima to continue to struggle, kwa sababu we say like Desmond Tutu says, if Africa has to develop, they must invest in women. And that is not just in leadership, but also in other areas, in economic empowerment, in all other aspects of life, in culture, culture, which sometimes can also be retrogressive. You bring women in, and things start to change gradually. So we are moving
Okay. Profesa Kabira, umekuwa ulikuwa makamu mwenyekiti wa commissioner katika constitutional review process, and katiba iliweka vipengee vya kutosha ili kumhusisha mwanamke kikamilifu, na kama iliweka wanawake, je, ndio sisi ndio tuko na shida, tunaogopa, ama ni tatizo liko wapi?
Nafikiri I was vice chair. After Guy, there were different stages of the constitution making, and at one time Professor Guy left, and we also lost Oki Obaka at one point, and then towards the end, after part one of Bomas of Kenya, when Professor Guy left, then the constitution was not completed, and Abid Ali and Ronnie became the chair, and I was elected vice chair, for the commission. And I think the constitution is a very good constitution, but there are some things that need, they need political goodwill. And I think we realized many of the constitutional provisions, the gains of the constitution, but there are many others which still require interpretation and the goodwill of political leadership in particular for them to be realized. They have to create legal frameworks for implementation of the same. Because, for instance, affirmative action, there was a provision for implementation of the two-third gender rule. It's actually still there. Article 27 of the Constitution of the Bill of Rights is also there. So, in a sense, like the court said that one time Parliament had been illegal for not fulfilling that particular the provision that is required in the Constitution. But I think it is lack of political will rather than the Constitution. And it's not only that. There are many other provisions, for instance, Article 43 of the Constitution, which is socio-economic rights, which says that every Kenyan has a right to clean water, has a right to food security, has a right to health, services and so on, has a right to social security and so on for ordinary Kenyans. And that was deliberately done because this was a people-driven process. And many Kenyans, both men and women, prioritized the socio-economic rights as basic needs, for Kenyans. But that provision has still been, there's still an argument about whether it is progressive or whether it is a right and so on, but it has not been fulfilled. So, when we see the people dying now because of drought or really going through a lot of suffering, we know it is because we have not focused on socio-economic rights. I am aware there is a food security bill which has been going between the Senate and the National Assembly for the last 10 years, and it has not been passed. There are battles about whether it is a money bill, whether it should have started at the Senate, etc. So I think they should feel very guilty, particularly the National Assembly, because I know it has been passed twice. The first time it was tabled there by Beatrice Elachi. The second time it was tabled by Murkomen, and at both stages it was stuck in the National Assembly. And we have actually, as part of civil society and women's organizations, we have been trying to follow it up.
Okay.
And it entered into BBI, but there was no reason to be in BBI. It's not a constitutional amendment. It's just a policy giving systematic way in which we can deal with this. We cannot be waiting for drought to kill us, like we cannot predict that this is going to happen, and therefore we take responsibility before and make sure that food is delivered before these pictures we are seeing at present of very poor, people who are emancipated, the mothers, the children, and so on. So I think this is a very, very important area. Article 43 of the Constitution, in my view, anyone who is talking to us about the next government, that is where they should focus. And we need a very clear program about how we can deal with the basic things, because we are not a poor nation.
Okay. Msikilizaji na mtazamaji wa KBC Channel 1 na Radio Taifa, kwa mara nyingine tena utatuia radhi mgeni wetu ndani ya studio atakuwa anachanganya lugha zote mbili, lugha ya taifa, lugha ya Kiswahili na vile vile pia lugha rasmi ya Kiingereza, kwa sababu ni lugha zote zinapatikana ndani ya katiba yetu. Ama sivyo Chozi?
Sawa. Alafu pia ukiangalia Good Morning Kenya ni Good Morning Kenya. Zinga ni zinga. Kwa hiyo leo tukichanganya bora tu pitishe ule ujumbe ambao unapaswa kupitishwa, itakuwa sio mbaya.
Bila shaka tunayemzungumzia ni Profesa Wanjiku Kabira ambaye yuko ndani ya studio zetu za Radio Taifa. Na wakati huo kumbuka msikilizaji, mtazamaji, kipindi hiki kiko moja kwa moja kupitia runinga yako unayoipenda ya KBC Channel 1 kwenye kipindi Good Morning Kenya. Nirudi kwako Profesa. Uchumi wa taifa letu la Kenya umeimarika na ni haki ya uchumi wa kila taifa na watu wake kuimarika, lakini mbona wanawake uchumi wenu bado uko chini? Tatizo liko wapi Profesa?
Asante, nitajaribu ku respond to that. Kwa sababu hata leo tunafanya research University of Nairobi on women's economic empowerment, na tunaona kwanza unajua ukiwa unafanya budget kama the current budget and you are not investing in those activities that support women, wanawake hawezi kwenda mbele. Na nitasema kwanza kwa sababu tunazungumza juu ya ile sectors ile in support women sana, ni kama health sector. If the health sector receives enough resources, women benefit, kwa sababu ni akina mama wanaangalia watoto, wanaangalia wale wazee, wanaangalia children with disability and so on. Kwa hivyo wakati wao mwingi unatumika kuangalia hawa citizens kama watoto na hawa wengine, na kwa sababu ni hawa na waangalia, wakati ule tunakuwa na health sector which is not properly funded. Women spend a lot of time struggling to even take a child from one hospital to another, or wataenda kwa hospitali wanaambiwa hakuna chochote, and it is happening now even today, even in level 5 hospitals. You go to the hospital, you are told there are no syringes, there are no gloves, there is nothing. So utaenda kutafuta mahali pale waweza kusaidika, ununue hiyo vitu alafu leo ulete kwa hospitali. Lakini tunaona kama mwaka huu wamejaribu kidogo kuleta pesa kwa various ways to the health sector, including referral hospitals. Of course tumezungumza juu ya this universal healthcare kwa muda mrefu, lakini implementation kila wakati hiyo ndio tabu, kwa sababu hata ukienda kama Machakos Hospital, Kiambu Hospital, you will find very many women stranded with their children or with the elderly, again because the basic things that are required for an operation, or for them to be admitted, they are not there. So I would say I think so tukizungumza juu ya health ni lazima tuweke pesa ya kutosha, lakini hatuweki ya kutosha. Lakini kwa mwaka huu wamejaribu kidogo, lakini hata tukifuata Maputo protocol, the African agreement, of at least 10%, we are still at around 5% allocation. Kitu kingine inasubua wakina mama sana ni water. Unajua kama mahali kama in the rural areas, water is not always accessible. We are very low in terms of water in houses and so on, but also harvesting water, which is not a very complicated thing. We can actually harvest water in almost all parts of this country, but the rain, sometimes we are taken away by the rain, the floods, then the drought comes and we are taken away by drought. It's like we cannot manage our resources, our environment in a way that it also becomes beneficial to us. Kama tunasikia mara mingi watu wakizungumza juu ya Israel and other places who are able to use whatever little water is available for irrigation and so on, and then expect food. So pengine if we had more women, in the agricultural leadership sector, you never know, we might have some changes that would be useful. Ile ingine ni ya masomo, kwa sababu watoto wadogo wanakaa na mama yao, huyu mama anataka kwenda kwa market kuuza boga to get something for the household, but she has to carry the baby on the back, and sometimes you don't even know where to carry the baby on your back. That's child care. The Ministry of Education and the county governments should invest much more on where mothers can leave the children so that they can do other things, a secure place. And we have been talking about child care centers that support women's economic empowerment. Na nafikiri wakifanya hivyo, tuna moja kama moja sijui nafikiri ni Tharaka Nithi, where the county government has put a child care center in the market itself, and make sure that the child care center is made of glass material, so that you can see your child as you are selling, and there's somebody taking care of the child. So psychologically it's good for that woman in terms of security of the child, but also she has the time to do her market duties, and therefore improve her economic empowerment. There's one we are supporting in Busia, again, in the market, cross-border trade, a certain kind of a market. And I think this should be the responsibility of the county governments, with the support from national government, to actually take care of our children. And in those small spaces, even those who are poor can have the food they can eat with the other children. So it's an area that is very important for women's economic empowerment. So the socio-economic rights actually support, women's economic empowerment, and we need to invest much more in them.
Professor, umesema kwamba hatuna viongozi wa kike, and you've mentioned lack of political will, and the country is not yet favoring women. Yani hawana hamu ya siasa, na vile vile ni kwamba nchi haipendelei wanawake. Which one outweighs the other? Is it that we lack the political will, or that the country is not favoring women? And what do you think is the reason? Yani sababu ya kuwa hivyo ni nini?
Kama nilisema, unajua political will, you see, I'm not in parliament now, but there are men and women in parliament. If there was commitment to women's leadership, we would not stay for 10 years without implementing a constitutional provision. And at the highest levels, if that commitment to promoting women's political empowerment, leadership positions, that provision would have been implemented. Women have gone to court. The courts have made their decisions. The decisions have been ignored. I think that's what I meant by a lack of political will. It is believing that this country would be better off with women and men at leadership positions. It is believing that these women will make a difference, but it's also believing that we need to change our institutions. We need to challenge our institutions to open up, for women's leadership, so that they can also be able to participate, fully, even when they get into those positions. So I think it is a struggle. It's also a struggle for power and leadership, just like the current struggle, for power in politics. Is it women against men? Is it now as BO versus UDA, Kenya Kwanza, or what is it? And the concept of power, the women's concept of power is not about, it's not about fighting for power as if it is less, as if there isn't enough power to distribute. It's about how you distribute power, and probably we can learn from the way women organize themselves in groups. And by the way, you find women who are still chairs of women's groups, which started after 1963. They are 99, but they are still chairs, because that competition for that child's leadership, is not there. If you have goodwill, the other people will do the work with that woman, even when she doesn't know what she's doing, but they will take leadership on her behalf. So I think it is the concept of power that we must actually deconstruct. It is not power over, it is power to serve, you know, not power over. And I think once we deal with those kinds of basic issues, that actually you are coming to serve the people, not to fill your pocket, then we'll make some progress.
Asante mtazamaji wa KBC Channel 1. Kipindi Good Morning Kenya, na vile vile pia msikilizaji wa KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya, kipindi Zinga. Studioni tuko naye Profesa Wanjiku Kabira ambaye ni mhadhiri wa chuo kikuu cha Nairobi, tukipigia mbizi swala zima la jinsia, pesa na uchaguzi. Lakini kwa sasa mtazamaji, msikilizaji, tunapata pumziko fupi, tutakaporudi tutasonga mbele. Mimi naitwa Rashid Mwamkondo.
Niite Mwajuma Ali, chozi la almasi.
Lakini kwa sasa msikilize Juliana Kanyamozi kibao Woman.
Gumzo Pevu. Mjadala wenye
I can no longer keep his secret.
But what does that mean? What are you talking about, Santiago?
I'm talking about my father's mismanagement. I promise that I'll do something about Rogelio. I won't let you down this time.
Because I'm planning to transfer all of my interests in this company to someone else. Name is Mariela Salvatierra.
Roberto's mistress?
Yes.
Then let me see it.
Lying heart.
Stop using your son as an excuse. Don't expect me to cover for you and deceive others. That's not gonna happen.
If the accusation is confirmed, the president will be the first one accountable. You've brought all of this upon yourself. It's no one else's fault. You deserve all of this. Sign the agreement now.
I must destroy Jack's life completely to avenge the baby I lost.
Wise Windsors. Phone in your purse.
Kitabu sana Woman na Juliana Kanyamozi. Chozi utanitafutia Juliana Kanyamozi.
Mfanyeje?
Maana naona hapa makameraman wote wanakumulika wewe. Okay. Ni kama ushapotea, so nitafutie Juliana. Na mtazamaji wa KBC Channel 1, kipindi Good Morning Kenya, na vile vile pia Zinga kwenye KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya. Karibu tena kwenye awamu ya pili ya mpango mzima wa kipindi hiki kwenye sehemu ya Gumzo Pevu. Mimi naitwa Rashid Mwamkondo.
Asante sana msikilizaji kwa kufungulia radio yako. Kumbuka kwamba leo hashtag ambayo inazungumza ni Good Morning Kenya na vile vile Zinga. Tunaye Profesa Wanjiku Kabira ambaye amekuwa katika sekta ya umma kwa miaka mingi na yuko ndani ya masuala ya utawala, usawa jinsia na vile vile sera. Mimi nafahamika kama Mwajuma Ali, ukipenda niite chozi la almasi.
Nikirudi kwako Profesa, baada kupata pumziko fupi, kuna ule msemo unasema kwamba mwanamke ni adui ya mwanamke. kwamba nyinyi wanawake wenyewe hampendani, hamsaidiani, ndiposa paka sisi waume inakuwa rahisi kuweza kuoutshine. Unakubaliana na hii narrative kwamba a woman is an enemy of a fellow woman?
No.
Yes, no.
No. I have no doubt that if women were their worst enemies, they would not all over this country be in groups working together. Just ask yourself about how many male groups you have. In fact, now we say, hata ikiwa hiyo committee in 70% of the women, you can have 30%. We actually welcome 30% of the women. If there are 70 women, 30 should be men. And this talks about leadership, that women will be led by women even when they're old, because they support each other. And in fact, if anything, women actually are their best friends, and traditionally that is evident. What happened is that unajua mwanamke akiingia kwa parliament, hiyo parliament is made, in fact it used to say, this is a house of men. So it is a house made for men. But just like a democracy, it was not really for women or slaves or children, and so on. But changes are taking place. Institutions themselves create that kind of competition between women. And therefore, you find that the women themselves may actually be competing because they are in a foreign, institution. It's not an institution which is created for men and women. It's an institution that is created for men with male rules and so on, male rules of competition. Sometimes I ask, even if you are to look at the current political situation, okay, you may have one or two women who have publicly said the wrong things, but how many have said the wrong things among the men? So, and how many have said nothing, or they have said the right things? There are very many women. So it is a narrative that is actually meant to divide the women themselves. Women even breastfeed children of other women. A woman dies, another one picks the child and brings the child up. So in a sense, and women also live in polygamous homes. You are married, to a man who has 3 other wives and so on, and they don't always kill each other. It's only when one woman makes a mistake that it becomes a women's issue. But when a man kills, we don't say men kill. We say, that's so and so, an individual. But for the women, when you commit a crime, you commit it on behalf of all other women. It is actually a male narrative that is used to actually keep women in their place.
Professor,
yes.
Kwa nini nimeuliza hilo swali? A big percentage of Kenyan voters, let's say 80% or 70, ni women.
Yes.
True or false? Kweli?
Yes.
Sasa mbona wanawake msisimamishe kiongozi mmoja akapigania urais? Kila siku mnataka mdandie. Why? Na mko na numbers.
Nikiongezea hapo, kuna mgombea wa kike wa chama cha Ford Asili ambaye amejitokeza, Bi Muthoni Grita. Amejitokeza na alitangaza kwamba atawania kiti cha uraisi, na akabainisha ajenda zake kwa wanawake au 70%, kwamba ajenda yake kubwa kwa Kenya ni haki za binadamu, haki za wanawake, pamoja na uwezeshaji wa vijana. Unadhania with the 70% that we have as women, atapewa kura, anaweza kasimamia akawa raisi?
If she doesn't get the vote, it's not because women hate each other. It is because of our culture, the tradition. By the way, even in universities, you talk about women's issues and they become NGO issues. It's not academic. You talk about women and that's not an academic program. I can tell you it took 3 years to start African Women Studies, because I had to prove beyond any doubt, together with my female colleagues, that there is something called African Women Studies. Because even during the time of Plato, you have heard of Plato, Aristotle, all those great scholars, they still had a philosophy which relegated women to the state of slaves. So we are talking about thousands and thousands of scholarship that actually marginalize women from mainstream, mainstream academy. And we are talking about even our own cultures. I wish some of you, could actually study Proverbs, what they say about women, with narratives, what they say about women, myths, what they say about women. In fact, it is, I think it's by miracle that, some stories continue to, for traditions from the women to actually say this narrative is wrong. So, and if you look at it, in fact, the women are the source of all evil. The women hate each other. The narrative we are talking about, all of it you will find in Proverbs. Kikuyu Proverbs, Luo Proverbs, all the African Proverbs. There is a book called The Source of All Evil. And the definition of, by the way, they separate woman from mother. The mother is important because a mother nurtures. Even for a politician, the mother wants that politician to succeed. So she will do everything. Now, the wife will ask, okay, you're going to be a politician. The last time we were in that parliament, what did you do for the children or whatever it is? So the wife is a competitor. The wife is a competitor, the woman is a competitor, the mother is a nurturer, and the sister is a good friend of the brother. So different categories are actually defined by our proverbs, by our myths, as they compete with men or as they support men. So it's a traditional narrative that has to take a very long time to die. But hopefully, and I believe that even in my own days, I can see things changing. I went to Aga Khan Hospital the other day taking my daughter, and I was very surprised because about 45%. I was counting because anyway I was sitting there waiting. I'm not the one who was giving birth, it's my daughter. So, and I saw 45% or 50% of the young men who brought their children with the baggage on their back, the way they carry the nappies and so on, and the baby in front. And that's not something you would have seen in the public not so many years ago, even 20 years ago. So it means that there are changes taking place in society, and we will live, but it will take a long time for many changes to take place.
Na msikilizaji, mtazamaji, leo hapa tunatumia anasema nini mpaka uwe flexible. Tunatumia
ujue lugha zote na uelewe kote.
Yani mpaka flexibility leo inafanya kazi kwa sababu kuna Kiswahili, kuna Kiingereza, kuna redio na kuna runinga. Kwa hiyo msikilizaji, mtazamaji, sio? Mtazamaji, msikilizaji.
Yes. Hapo sasa
kazi ipo mtazamaji.
I hope Bwana Kusero, Salome, Mwaura wote wanatuona bila
shaka. Hata Ben Kamuti anatuona. Na siku zote mimi husema kwamba mwanamke ni kiungo muhimu sana. Ndani ya studio nina wanawake wawili na yule dada pale anayefanya direction ya hiki kipindi kwenye runinga ni mwanamke. Ben ni kama tu bodyguard pale. Kwa hiyo wanawake wana kipaumbele sana. Lucy by the way wa home umemwona. Alright. Turudi kwako Profesa Kabira. Kuna swala ambalo linajitokeza wazi kwamba wanawake wanahitaji usaidizi. Labda ni kitu gani ambacho kimepelekea mpaka wanawake wanahitaji usaidizi? Kwa sababu leo hii mwanamke anaweza kuwa ana uwezo kufanya kitu fulani, lakini unakuta kwamba uwezo apawi. Wanaume wanataka kumtumia kingono, wanaume wanataka kumtumia kwa hongo, na mtu ana uwezo. Je, tunawasaidia vipi wewe kama champion wa masuala ya wanawake?
Yes, na tena my apologies kwa sababu Kiswahili yangu.
No problem.
Kama alivyosema wewe sio mwalimu wa Kiswahili.
Yeah, I should have been listened better in class because when I was going to wakati ule nilikuwa nikienda primary school tulikuwa na mwalimu mzuri sana wa standard 4. And that is about 1963-64. And she was very good in Kiswahili, and I just used to admire her. But maybe then I did not live with her long enough before breaking that. So, but I'm also proud that we have both English and Kiswahili as our local, as our national languages, and we also promote our local languages, which I really am very proud that KBC is doing that. And in fact, tutatumia 15 languages as African Women Studies Center, University of Nairobi, kuzungumza juu ya wanawake na uchumi in our local languages so that we can reach as many people as possible. So I love our languages, but I was telling myself this morning, in my next life, I will learn Kiswahili fluently if I get another life.
Sasa Professor,
yes.
Tuandike kazi mimi na huyu dada.
Munifundishe.
Bas.
Sasa nitaitumia wapi na nini? I'm exiting. Yeah. But I think thank you very much for giving me this flexibility, because I'm used to some of these issues, and when you have, kwa sababu nimekuwa nikifundisha at the University of Nairobi kwa miaka 40 na nilikuwa nikitumia Kiingereza, ni kwa hivyo Kiswahili yangu ni ile ya market, nikienda kununua vile ninanunua supermarket kila mahali ninatumia Kiswahili, lakini hiyo haijui ya kusema juu ya Plato, Aristotle, all these power issues and so on. But thank you very much. I think, with the women's economic empowerment in particular, and I want to say this because you asked me a question. Ni kwa nini, why do we want to be assisted? But it's not that we want to be assisted. I think you raised it. It is that any burden, when it is left to one person, is heavy. When you share the burdens, the burden, even at the family level, you both benefit. And I will say this because I know, when we talk about child care, when you talk about how many hours women, are awake and how many hours they are working, research shows that majority of the women actually work, for, both at the domestic level. It doesn't matter whether they are educated or not. But of course, if you have resources, you hire. You hire the support. But when you don't have the support, you have 5 children. You woke up at 5 in the morning. You went to bed at midnight. You slept for a few hours. Then you have to wake up in the morning. So you find women also getting even irritable, even with children. There are literature that shows that sometimes, when you are angry, you actually let off the steam, against the nearest person, who is the child. So you might even find a woman beating the child because she's so exhausted. Just like she will, catch the cat if it eats the food for the child because she doesn't know where to get more food for that particular child. So I think that assistant is not, is how far can you go as a woman to do both, what you call the triple roles of women, taking care of children, doing your daily work, even if it is in the shamba or in school or wherever, and at the same time having to think about the elderly in that home. And I want to say that I'm very happy with one of the things that is happening also with the current budget is the bigger allocation of resources, for instance, to the elderly, because the elderly are, if you like, they are the ones who have made us who we are. And when they have no strength, our strength as a government will depend on how we actually treat the elderly, the sick, and the others. So I think but then on the issue of the economy, if you look at what is allocated to what is called women's economic empowerment, it's actually it's not even a drop in the ocean. It is very little. Affirmative action funds, which we have been studying, apart from the women rep, allocation, which is about 2.1 billion, the rest, like women enterprise fund, is so little. People are getting loans of 5,000 or less. Even if you are Mama Boga, how will your business ever grow when the opportunities that the government is giving gives you such little money and taking it away? And then politics come in. There was a very good program that was being established by Treasury. It was called Biashara Fund, to give more allocation of resources to this particular fund so that they can get bigger loans, like get 500 for those who can afford, 100,000 for those who can afford, because all of us know that whatever we have done is because we have borrowed from our tuners, our cooperatives, within, that is how you buy anything as an ordinary Kenyan who may be employed, who has access to these resources. But the investment in women in terms of economic empowerment is very little. I talked about socio-economic rights, which are critical, but I'm also talking about Article 27 of the Constitution, which is on affirmative action funds. And I will tell you, I was just analyzing even for East Africa, East African policies on trade and so on, and compare it with the gender policy for the East African countries, and you find that the gender policy is very well written. It has a lot of information. There are very good recommendations, just like our national gender policy, but they are not part of the overall policy. Just like the budget, by the way, it talks about gender, but gender, by the way, has also been used to keep the women out. Then you see, because it's men and women, it has also been used, to cover, the women's interest and so on. But I was saying that if we were really committed to promoting women's empowerment and the poor, they would be mainstreamed in everything we do, including the national budget. And that's why I said that in terms of social protection, there's a bit of effort, which is better than it has been in the past. So I'm not sure, I'm talking about very many things, but I'm trying to make just one point, that if we were committed to women's economic empowerment, it would be reflected in the budget. If you look at even today's budget, even for the youth, by the way, we talk about bottom up and approach, or even welfare approach, but in both cases the question is, where are the women? What are you going to do with the women? Because they are 52% of the population. There's a high level of poverty in this country, and if you don't invest in women, that poverty is never going to go. And welfare is not always enough. People want to do things also for themselves, but you don't also get a strong economic power when you remain a mama boga, and we sanitize that as if this is the level that women can remain at, at that level. But women with support, economic support, financial inclusion, they can move from mama boga to mama what? So at least do a bigger
professor.
Professor, nikitaka tu kuongezea ama kuuliza kitu fulani kabla tujampatia msikilizaji nafasi ya kuuliza maswali. Kisiasa ama katika uongozi tunaambiwa kwamba tunatumia sana hisia, na ndio maana hatuwezi kuongoza. We are very creative, tuna ubunifu mkubwa, lakini sasa hisia ndizo ambazo zinatufanya, we are emotional. Is that true?
Okay, by the way, like I said a little bit earlier, that was, that has been used by, every generation, every generation. In any case, if what is wrong with being emotional? If you have feelings for other people, why not? If you feel sad, or if you have lost somebody, or even if you are angry, as long as you are not taking the panga, to kill somebody, what is wrong with expressing your emotions? In fact, by the way, the Western psychology tells us, that you should express yourself so that pain will go. But then, yes, lakini, so it is true that there are we are biologically different. But what we do is use biology, is ensure that what is biologically different, we kind of, we take the women's emotions negatively, but a man, like the characters in Okonkwo, in Chinua Achebe's, we look at him and say, a man should never have behaved the way Okonkwo behaved, and that is why his life is so bad. But the truth of the matter is that we want to negate emotions because women are supposed to be emotional. But at the same time, if you are not emotional, they say you are like a man, which is not good for you. You should be like a woman. So we don't even know what to be. So all these traditional myths actually are myths based on the intention to actually keep the women in their place.
Labda tu Profesa, naona muda wetu haunasi, tuna dakika 2 tu kuweza kumaliza kipindi asubuhi ya leo. Na swali langu la mwisho kabla kuweza kumaliza.
Naona muda umekimbia.
Sini na mengi sana ya kusema nimeandika, lakini nitasema lini.
Usijali, bado muda upo. Labda Profesa, je, in future wanawake politically na economically ipo haja kwamba wao wataweza kuimarika, watakuwa sawa in future mbali na sasa? Kwa sababu tukiangalia viongozi wanawake katika taifa la Kenya wapo, lakini ni wachache. Vile vile pia kiuchumi wapo, lakini ni wachache. Je, siku za usoni kuna matumaini?
Yeah, no, it is coming. I think we have seen Gilus, we have seen Mother Karuas, we have seen
the Comes,
the Martha Comes, we have seen the the Auditor General, we have seen women in the private sector. I think the culture is going to change, because by their being there, they are actually telling the girls can see them, and the girls know we can do it. It is the same thing even in education. For instance, changes are taking place in our school, in our university of Nairobi, the law school. There are actually more young women, so law is being taken over, not taken over. We also want our boys, because we are also mothers of boys, so we are not talking about overtaking the boys. We are talking about girls having their place and the boys having their place. When you go to medical school, which used to be a male dominated, you find that we have over 40% of young women in the medical school. But now we also want them to get into more lucrative jobs, even within medicine, like surgery, and so on. So I think we are making progress, and I feel Kenya is going to, not just Kenya, I think globally, I'm very happy about this lady who became who joined the Supreme Court of the US. Even blacks there, black women are making progress. So we are moving.
Umetaja Kenya. Na tukimalizia labda, una ujumbe gani wa amani kwa nchi yetu hii, manake tunakaribia uchaguzi?
I think for this year, that I want to say, like I've had other people say also, that this is just an election, and we actually need to treat it as an election. After election, we'll go back to our homes. We want to choose the best candidate that we think is giving us, the what we think Kenya needs, because of course we think differently, but you vote with your mind and not your stomach. But we also vote because you want democracy to continue, but we also want the leaders to actually just disown any violence on a consistent basis, because if we can have a very peaceful election, very peaceful transfer of power, then we would be a great nation. We would be telling the rest of Africa also and the rest of the world that our democracy has matured. And I think it will be very important. And I would say that on behalf of all the other women, I would say women must also lead the way. Because we say we are peaceful, and we want them to lead the way for peaceful elections.
Before we wind up, in 30 seconds, what's your take on mental health?
I think mental health is an important issue, and it is coming up. I've seen some programs on TV, and I think when you are poor, when you have many problems that you cannot handle because you don't have food, or, even for your children, I'm talking about both men and women now, when there are problems that you feel you cannot handle, you are a candidate for mental health. I think when you go through violence, and so on, you are also a candidate for mental health. I think it is an issue that we need to take openly and be able to support our young people in particular. Hopelessness can lead to mental health, So I think it's a very, very important issue. Very often we don't know that we are living with people who are mental, and sometimes we treat them badly because we ourselves don't understand. So I think we need to really create awareness about mental health, and even to be able to see it before our young people get worse, or even our partners get worse.
Thank you.
So I think it's a very important issue that we need to address.
Thank you, Prof. Kwa hiyo basi, mtazamaji, hatuna la ziada ila kuweza kushukuru wale wote ambao wamefanikisha kipindi hiki, ikiwa ni wenzetu kutoka runinga ya KBC Channel 1 kitengo cha production. Asante sana Ben Kamuti, Martin Jeru na jopo zima kwa kuweza kufanikisha kipindi hiki, bila kumsahau mkurugenzi mkuu wa shirika la utangazaji nchini Kaimo Bwana Samuel Maina. Asante sana vile vile pia mkuu ama msimamizi wa vipindi vya runinga katika shirika la utangazaji nchini Bwana Michael Ndete, vile vile pia wakuu wetu wa redio Jona Kusero, James Moura, Martin Kingasia, Salome Galgalo na vile vile pia Lucy Wahome. Mimi naitwa Rashid Momkondo.
Na nashukuru pia Profesa Wanjiku Kabira kwa kutumia Kiswahili na kuungana na sisi, kukubali tu kuja KBC Radio Taifa. Ukasema utaongea Kiswahili, wewe ni shujaa. Asante sana. Mimi nafahamika kama Mwajuma Ali, ni Techuzi la Almasi.
Na wapeleka kwenye Good Morning Kenya, ambapo tuko naye Daktari Evangeline Wangeshi akiwa na Dorina Range wakizungumzia kuhusu masuala ya afya ya akili. Bye bye.
Are you an aspiring candidate in the upcoming general elections? Do you want your agenda and manifesto to reach your voters effectively? At KBC, we have the most comprehensive and credible online platform that has profiles of all prospective candidates. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants and let Kenyans know more about you, your past achievements, your manifesto, and your development agenda once you get elected to office. What's more, the website is easy to navigate. We will create your profile, post pictures and short videos with your campaign messages at affordable hosting fees. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants today and establish your brand authority as we lead towards the forthcoming general elections.
Stop using your son as an excuse. Don't expect me to cover for you and deceive others. That's not gonna happen.
If the accusation is confirmed, the president will be the first one accountable. You've brought all of this upon yourself. It's no one else's fault. You deserve all of this. Sign the agreement now.
I must destroy Jack's life completely to avenge the baby I lost.
Wise Windsors. Phone in your purse.
Keep abreast of the developments live from the National Assembly and the Senate.
Honourable members of Parliament.
The questions.
When is the construction expected to commence?
The motions.
Beg to give notice of the following motion.
The debate.
Will as many as want to opinion say aye.
The statements.
A statement on an issue of general topical concern.
The petitions.
Order number 4, petitions.
Stay tuned to KBC Channel 1 and Radio Taifa for live proceedings from both houses of parliament from Tuesday to Thursday. Live, uncensored, unedited. KBC, your national broadcaster.
right, welcome back to the program, and time for our health conversation this Tuesday morning. Our focus centered on matters mental wellness. That's what we want to focus on, at least today, with the recent data from the World Health Organization indicating that 1 in every 4 Kenyans suffers from mental health. So what exactly can we do as a society, as a community, in breaking that issue as it pertains to mitigating matters to do with mental health? My guest is already on set. That is Dr. Evangeline Wangeshi. She is a public health practitioner as well as a trained therapist, and she'll be helping us understand more about mental wellness. Welcome to the program, Dr.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, let's start with the fact that you've been in both two places. You've lived in the States, you've been in the country here in Kenya, and I just want you to paint for us a picture in terms of the comparison, how mental issues or mental health is dealt with in terms of quick response in the States and in Kenya.
Okay, I want to say thank you for this time. And just before we go there, I just want to applaud the Kenyans, because for us, the fact that we are having this conversation, that means we are open to, you know, increasing that mental health awareness. So this is good. As far as my experience, I've been in the field for 15 years, right? And so running community mental health organizations, and definitely there are some differences. There's something we call the one-stop shop, where you know, someone is found drunk and then they come to a clinic, so they're not being punished by whoever finds them under a bridge because, you know, they're drunk or they're high on weed or marijuana, but rather you bring them to a mental health clinic where they'll find a team of professionals that they can take care of them. I think the big point here is that we don't punish people because they are high on weed or they're drunk. No need to put them to jail, no need to put them to prison. But how can we help this person get treatment, and then, of course, be a productive member of the community? Yeah.
All right, so I want you to tell us the comparison, because basically that's what you've just talked about a bit in terms of that one-stop shop, but you haven't really expounded on that. You know, there's so many conversations surrounding the fact that in the West or in the States, there's so much urgency when it comes to dealing with mental health. But when it comes to the African continent, and even particularly here in Kenya, we don't treat it with the urgency that it needs. So that's what I want you to bring out.
Yeah, so what the one-stop shop means, it's an integrated health care. So where you take care of the person as a whole. When I'm looking at you, I'm looking at the whole person. I'm not just thinking about someone has depression, you know, they present with depressive symptoms or a depressive disorder. I think about are they homeless? You know, do they have safety? Do they have a safe environment where even after they see their therapist and we let them go home, they will feel safe? So the one-stop shop is this whole clinic where someone can come for physical health services, they can come and see their therapist, and if they have alcohol or substance use issues, they will be seen in the same environment. They have peer support specialists because they speak the same language. They can relate to the issues. So it's making it convenient for the person who is struggling or is having these mental health challenges. So making it so convenient for them to a point that we are supporting them and we're not punishing them.
Okay, so when you come back to Kenya, do you feel, in your perspective, I know you've been in the States for a very long time, but would you just perhaps have that feeling that maybe that's what we are lacking? We don't provide that extensive support to our own. We don't take it with the urgency and the seriousness that it deserves.
I think there's always room for improvement. Just because I am in the US, it doesn't mean we are perfect. There are areas we are still working on, right? However, collaboration is needed. We need to collaborate with different systems. We need to collaborate with the community members. We need to collaborate with the members of the clergy. We need to collaborate with the police department. We need to collaborate with the local hospitals so that we all can come together and help this person and see what do they need, what are their needs. And then in public health we call it the social determinants of health. It's a whole checklist of their relationships, their well-being, their physical health. So really, I'm not sure whether we are there yet in Kenya, but I'm a Kenyan, so I have hope that the more we continue these conversations and having the right people in the right place to help the system and work the system, we'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
There's hope.
Of importance that there's hope.
Absolutely.
All right, you have an expansive knowledge on matters mental health, and you've also been involved in developing and implementing trauma-informed and integrated healthcare programs. So I want you to just break it down for us, what this entails and what it's all about.
The integrated healthcare?
Yes.
So I'll give you an example. You go to one of the supermarkets here in Nairobi, right? And you can come out with shoes, you can come out with milk, you can come out with bananas. You can buy clothing if you want.
Yes.
So it makes it so convenient for you, or for us, the shoppers, right? It makes it so convenient for us that I don't have to go looking for a store for shoes, another store for milk, it's time consuming. It's almost wastage of resources. But when you create this beautiful clinic where the person identifying with these mental health challenges can come to this healthcare clinic, they can actually come into, we call it a crisis unit. It's almost like an emergency unit, right? And then they find a team of professionals, the peer support. They find the nurses. They find the social worker who actually assesses their mental well-being. They assess their physical wellness, their physical health. And then they are able to triage them, if need be, with the local hospital. All right. Once they're cleared by the hospital, then they can come back to the community mental health clinic for more assessment. And if, let's say, for example, if it's alcohol and they need detoxification, they need to go through the detox, so like a rehab, we have it here, right? Like a rehab. Then they can come back to the clinic and then keep them there for a few days under observation, making sure that, as they detox their system, they're safe. Their physical health, we must check it. Their mental health, we must make sure that they're doing well, and we're assessing them. And then from there, before we can discharge them from the detox unit, we circle them back to an outpatient program. And the outpatient program is where they find a social worker, they find their primary care physician for their physical well-being, and then their peer support specialists and case managers. They're so important. And at the same time, we are checking with them after we discharge them. Where else are you going? Are you going home to a safe environment, or what's the next plan? Yeah.
So this is a one-stop shop for everything as it pertains to matters mental wellness. How long has this program running? What can you say about the success stories?
Number one, we talk about transportation, right? So the person doesn't have to go to traveling to all these different places looking for my doctor's office, right? Or my therapist, the social worker, or where is my peer support specialist? So number one, we make it very convenient for the patient. We also make it so friendly, because it needs to be friendly, that there's no judgment. You've gone through this life, because life is full of challenges. We've all been through some challenges.
Yes.
And so we want to make it as comfortable to this patient as we can. And therefore, that is why such an environment is important. And then, of course, with the physical health, we are monitoring them. How are they doing? Yeah. And are they receptive to the treatment? And so there's daily and constant encouragement why treatment is important, and then follow-ups. So of course we have to hold people accountable in the sense of, I need to see you for your session or for your appointment, but if I don't see you, I'll give you a call.
You go the extra mile.
We have to go an extra mile, because these are our sisters and cousins, and these are people. It's only that life happened for them, maybe trauma, right? Or unfortunately, their childhood wasn't as pleasant as others. So I think we need to shift our focus and be more forgiving as a society. We need to be gentle with people. This idea of just judging, but you don't know my story. If you knew my story, maybe you would be a little bit more soft, So I think we need to be soft. We need to humanize this and normalize the conversation about mental health. And anybody. I mean, if somebody has cancer, we are all over them and taking care of them and loving on them and shopping for them. Can we do the same for these others?
For mental health?
For mental health challenges, can we do some shopping for someone who is, struggling with depression and, PTSD? It would be so important.
Yeah, so that we don't judge you, and I don't judge you, and you've said that we all have a story, and you're so big on mental health, an advocate on that. Thomas does on the same. What is your story? I mean, you didn't wake up and decide, I'd want to start championing for this thing that is called mental health.
Yeah.
What's your background looking like?
I think it's a good conversation, because I didn't get into the field because my story drove me to that, or I was drawn to that.
All right.
I was just curious about, why do people behave the way they do? Why do we make the decisions that we make? What is the force behind it? What drives that? So I went to school, my graduate school, and did counseling, professional counseling. And then I got into the field, of course, and now I was even more curious, because I realized my own childhood environment wasn't what I thought. And that is, there was a lot of
And this you're realizing when you're already an adult?
Absolutely. When I was in graduate school, I was doing my master's then. Yeah. So you can see from my childhood, at the age of maybe between 5 and 11, there was a lot of dysfunction, but I lost my mom when I was 10. And of course, that's not something you tell the kids, because the kids are kids and we don't need to explain to them. That was a mistake, And so having struggled with the loss and grief, and not knowing that you're grieving, but you're grieving. And then I go to high school, and all my peers, their moms are coming to visit, but I don't see my mom anywhere. Then I start asking questions. Wait a minute, somebody is missing in the big picture. So you can see the lack of allowing kids to express themselves, and also listen to them, and also asking them, how are you feeling? Yeah. Giving them a safe environment where they can express themselves, also without judgment, So that, to me, when I was in graduate school, even pushed me to want to do this thing called mental health.
That's where you develop the passion, the zeal, the want to just focus on mental health. Let's stay there a bit, particularly when it comes to loss and grief, because we keep saying all the time, and this could be in any area, keep saying, you just need to get over it. Just get over it. And sometimes you don't understand the impact that this has. It could be in a child or even in an adult. Let's talk about the loss and grief just a bit.
Yeah. We don't just get over it. There's nothing.
And there's no time frame to it.
There's nothing like that.
Okay.
The goal is to allow someone to grieve in a safe environment. You don't have to say much if you don't know what to say. I just need someone to be present in the moment. If I need to talk, then I can express my thoughts, I can express my feelings. if I need something, you can say, how can I help you? Or when you're ready to talk, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
If you need anything, let me know what you need. But in the meantime, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay. Then again, from a psychologist's perspective, even just from your practice and your expertise, make us understand, because you would see some people even 10 years, 15 years down the line, they're still having that pain, and it takes a toll on their mental wellness. Sometimes it's just 15 years later and you're sitting with someone, you're having a very good conversation, then they just break down. And they've been really thinking about this thing. What normally is the psychology behind this? How does this have a really long-term effect on someone to a point that they really affect them mentally completely?
Yeah, I think going back to my own story and being in graduate school and then realizing what I thought my childhood wasn't. It's because after, you go to a classroom and you're talking about the underlying issues, and now you're hearing more. There are things called underlying issues. What are those?
Yeah.
Right? One, it's because when we don't address issues in real time, it becomes a long-term problem. So it is important for us to be vulnerable in that moment and address an issue. Unfortunately, what most of us do, we brush things under the rug. We sweep things under the rug of, you need to get over it.
Yes.
Or with time you'll be fine.
I mean, and some would say like, Indian njia yetu sote, all of us will go through this way, so why are you sulking over this? And we sometimes don't understand the magnitude.
Right. And it's unfortunate. So we need to be very sensitive to one another. We need to be sensitive when we are comforting people, when we are with people that are experiencing or rather have experienced loss. So this is very important. Addressing issues in real time. It's hard, it's not easy, but encouraging it.
That you need to constantly address those issues.
Absolutely.
Nonetheless. Again, there's another issue of trauma, and just borrowing also from what you've mentioned, that sometimes we tend to think, and particularly this emanates from kids, because you know, it's from what you see in that environment as a child. It grows over time, and we always tend to think, they're just kids, they really don't understand much. And you sit with someone at the age of 26 and they tell you, when I was 6, when I was 5, dad did this to mom, or mom did this to dad, and the environment was very toxic for me. So when you see me act the way I act at this 26 or 30 years, is because of what I went through when I was 5.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, most of my clients, maybe you can hear somebody's in their 40s and 50s and 60s and even 70s, and they're literally crying, or they're in emotional pain, very raw, because of what happened to them or was done to them when they were 10 or they were 5. And this is because, of course, those issues were not addressed. Either there was child neglect, there was a child abuse, or whatever. So, and because they were never addressed, now it's the time, because of the triggers again, the underlying issues, they become a trigger. So you may look at somebody that reminds you of your abuser or the perpetrator, and therefore it becomes a huge problem for them. So going through trauma, of course, when you talk about trauma, it's the potential trauma events that one was exposed to that occur during childhood, whether it's child neglect, child abuse, it could be being exposed to domestic violence. So all these issues affect all of us later in life. And that's why the adults need to be the adults in the home.
Okay.
The caregivers, they need to be more sensitive. We need to provide children with a safe environment, whatever the cost, because there will be a cost, but we need to make sure our children are taken care of.
And trauma is one of those areas that you're largely involved in, and that's also part of what this is, the program that you really have been working on. But I also want us to talk slightly about that trauma issue, and just the way you're saying that we need to create a safe environment for children particularly, and also for adults. So then how do we go about doing this? Because you already can establish that it creates a long-term effect, trauma, to these children.
Yeah, for me, from losing my mom at that age and going to high school and realizing I was missing somebody in the picture that was so important, I didn't realize the impact that had in my life. Some of the decisions I made in life, you know, they were not happy, they were not good decisions, you know, because there was another force. Some of the relationships, right? Decision making that were not anything that I would encourage anybody to make such decisions. So again, treatment. Let's get treatment, even for the children. Our children, they need treatment. We need to make sure that they're getting therapy. If there's loss in the home, I wish then there was, I knew what I know now, that something called treatment, and a child can go to therapy and be allowed to express herself or himself in a very safe environment where there is no judgment.
All right.
So as much as we focus on the adults, I hope we can also, you know, as a society, we can also focus on the children.
Why do you think we don't normalize therapy, particularly in Africa?
Well, it's, you know, I grew up going to my neighbors to borrow salt. They were told, you know, go get salt. And my neighbor, I mean, it's like all of us, we are a big family, and that's good. Family is great, but within a family unit, we are individuals. You're your own person. And so, as much as you're told, do not disclose the family business to the public, because it's family. I think then the other question is the family then addressing these issues appropriately? Because if they're not, then it's also a problem. So I think as we talk about the family itself and the society, let's make sure that we are, you know, just get out of the box. I think the days are gone. We can get out of the box and we can embrace the treatment that is needed. Yeah.
So you think that our culture as Africans is one of those inhibiting factors as to why we embrace and we think therapy is normal. In essence, that we don't think it needs to be part of us because of our culture orientation.
It's needed. It doesn't mean our culture is bad. It's not a right or wrong. It's not a good or bad. But we need to be mindful of what is working and what's not. What's not working, we need to set it aside and pick what is working.
Okay, in your practice and handling such cases, particularly even in cases of trauma, what or which case would you say that this was actually those cases that, wow, those difficult, tough cases, or each one of them is just...
Yeah, as far as trauma, we could experience or be exposed to an event, two of us, same time, maybe let's say a car accident, God forbid, right? The car is red, we are both in that car, I get traumatized, and you move on, and you're okay. So trauma is not a one-suit-fits-all. Just because we've been exposed to the same event, then both of us will be traumatized the same way. Maybe you're more resilient than I am, and that's okay. So I just need to work on myself and resiliency, meaning being able to bounce back.
And does that stem from personality or upbringing or life experiences?
Life experiences.
Okay.
Childhood life experiences. Yeah.
So then how can you tell that someone has a mental health problem? Because look at this scenario in a family setup. I mean, you've had so many cases of, we were just having a conversation this morning. I mean, it's in the afternoon, and you go back to the house, or it's in the evening, and the person just committed suicide, and sometimes you just cannot make sense of what exactly happened. I was talking with you on phone, and you looked excited. Everything looked fine. So then how can you tell that someone has a mental health problem? What are the telltale signs?
Yeah, they're symptoms, and especially like death by suicide. Okay. What are the red flags that maybe we missed or the friends missed? I don't want the friends to feel guilty that they missed, you know.
Yeah, because there's a lot of that guilt.
Yeah, you know, there's that guilt and shame and the ifs, you know, what if I called or I had called, or we don't want to run with that. I mean, it's the human brain. We don't know what somebody is thinking, but it does happen. So I think it's for us to look at the symptoms. And when I'm with your, you know, when you're with your friend or I'm with my friend, you know, pay attention. Let's pay attention. So it's not just kahawa time, but how are you feeling? Listening. I like to say listening is the best gift we can give to each other. Yeah. Being able to listen without judgment and being able to observe somebody's body language. Now, we all cannot be therapists, but there are things we can do. Yeah. If somebody shares, I didn't sleep well last night, I won't brush it off. What happened? Pay attention, listen. Yeah. My appetite is low or poor. What's going on? I lost a cousin. How can I help? How may I be of help? So I think it's just, you know, for us is to pay more attention, listen, and ask questions. And if we don't have answers, that's okay. Yeah.
Doctor, aside from body language and appetite, I mean, what are those key things we can look at? Because
agitation.
All right.
Anger is huge. Somebody getting all edgy, you know, you step on their toes by mistake. They're ready for a fight.
And they make a very big deal out of it.
They're ready for a fight. Okay. Or, you know, there's anxiety. There's a lack of sleep. Some people isolate. You know, I don't want to be bothered, don't call me. You call them, they don't answer the phone. Those are some of the things, basic things we need to look at.
So now you've already spotted these things. Again, let's take the very basic scenario in a family setup. What is the best way to approach such kind of people showing this kinds of sign without having to look judgmental, like, why are you just not eating? I mean, all of us are eating, and why you know?
Yeah, every time you ask somebody the why, I'm going to fight for my life. So I'll defend. So there's that defensive mechanism.
So even the language that you use is very important?
Absolutely. Your choice of words, right? So it's not, why are you not eating? Or what happened to you? You know, what's your problem? No. This is what I have observed, because it's an observation. Right, I have observed, or I have heard you say that, you know, your appetite is low. What happened? What has changed? So very gentle, going back to just being so gentle and mindful. If we use the why, then I don't know your intention or your agenda. Why are you asking the why? So I'm gonna say something, whatever it is you want to hear, because I don't want to have this conversation.
So it just narrows down to how you approach this person.
Approach is important.
That is what makes the difference, without having to sound judgmental. But others will still say that, much as even you ask that in terms of even the language that you use, there's still some factors that will still feel like it's not a safe environment for me. I still feel judged. I'm not okay to open up in this space. Some would even say that I'm opening up so that you can go and have a story to tell other people.
We need to be disciplined. You know, if somebody shares with me how they feel, they're sharing because they trust that that information is confidential. So I need to be disciplined with that information that they share. The other thing is, if they do not feel comfortable or they're not ready yet to talk about whatever it is they're going through, I need to respect that. But remind them, I'm here for you, I care about you, and when you're ready, I'm here. Yeah.
So aside from just having this conversation with the person, could be again
treatment, definitely. Encourage the person. You know, who can we call? Is it your spiritual leader that maybe they feel comfortable reaching out to? Is there a therapist? We need to find a therapist for them. or who do they have that can be of great support. Yeah.
All right, personality disorder in line with mental health. Talk to us about that.
It's a tricky one, I have to. And I would encourage that for people who are trained to work with individuals that have personality disorders. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just for people who are trained to work with
individuals who have personality disorders.
In your practice, have you had to encounter this?
Oh, yes.
That's what I want you to bring out.
What we do is, those who are trained as trauma therapists, they specialize on that. Those who are trained to work with individuals with personality disorder patients, we allow to, so we zero in on what is your expertise. That's the most important thing. Yeah. Some people prefer to work with the adults. Some people prefer to work with the kids. So I think, because you want to have the best outcomes.
The best outcome at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Okay, again, even as we talk about creation of awareness, because we can keep talking about that, and we are really seeing people coming out, advocates like you, doctors, therapists, talking about mental health. So clearly awareness, at least it's being done here and there. But again, there's still some underlying factors, issues. And just going by what you're facing here as a country, there's that issue of not allocating money or budget towards mental health. Yes, we have the entire health as a function, but we do not put a money specifically, just this is for mental health issues. Do you think we need to do better? Do we need to do more? And in respect to that, what do we need to do?
That's a call to action that's needed. We need a healthy society. We cannot have a healthy society without mental health resources. If my app here is not working,
there's nothing else that's working.
There's nothing else that is working. I will not be productive. My relationships, I'm going to burn bridges. Whether I'm working in the banking system or transportation system or just any level of leadership, or I'm the mama boga somewhere. So if I'm suffering mentally, nothing else is working. My family will be broken. Like, there will be so many challenges even in the family.
So in the West, do we have budgets catered for mental health?
Yes.
Or this is actually an issue that cuts across the globe?
No, we have the federal money, or the national, here it's the national budget. In the US, we have the federal government that provides the funds, and then it trickles down to the state government. And then from the state government, it trickles down to the local government. So the Mwana Inchi will have their share of mental health resources to take care of the citizens.
So there's actually a budget catered for mental health specifically.
Absolutely.
Something that African continent, particularly Kenya, needs to borrow. Because that is part of taking it with the seriousness and the urgency that it needs.
No, unfortunately, some of the chaos that we have seen in high schools, or domestic violence, or just different arenas, right? For us to be able to effectively address those issues, we need resources. We need resources. Yeah.
We need money to address those issues.
We need the money.
What is the place of physical exercise as it pertains to mental wellness?
We encourage people to, physical health is important. Health diets.
Yes.
Eat healthy. Skuma wiki is good, and spinach. Just eating healthy is good for our mental health. Yeah.
And the physical exercise is also good for our mental wellness and mental health altogether. All right. Now, there's something I just want us to address even before we bring this conversation to a close, and that is the aspect of job loss, or even just in the working space. We've also had, because anytime we talk about mental wellness or mental health as a whole, you always think about the family setup. Either the parents are not there for the child, or just domestic violence. It's mostly centered around issues emanating from the family space. But we sort of like put less focus on the working environment and the toxicity that sometimes can emanate maybe from a toxic boss or toxic co-workers. Talk to us just slightly a bit about that.
Yeah. So usually, if I'm not happy at home and I work, I'm taking all my challenges, all my issues to work. My colleagues will not be happy. They'll have a rough day. They'll have a bad day. So we need to focus on our families. We need to focus on organizations, creating a safe environment. Even think of simple breaks, like a simple break room, where people can freely.
This is in the workspace.
This is in the workspace, absolutely. A good break room where you can go rest for 15 minutes, for 10 minutes. It's good for us. And then go back to your, your daily business, right? So, and also for the employers to provide resources, for them to provide resources to support their employees.
Well said. Good enough, and a good place to end it.
Absolutely.
I know employers have been watching that. Provide resources to support your employees, very key and important also for the employers. All right, I have been speaking to Dr. Evangeline Wangeshi. She is a public health practitioner as well as a trained therapist. Our conversation centered on mental wellness, mental health altogether, what we can do as a society as well as a community to just aid and assist when it comes to matters mental wellness. We ultimately bring Good Morning Kenya to a close this Tuesday. I'm Doreen Arange Okello. On behalf of the entire team, we say thank you so much for watching. We'll do this again tomorrow. Stay safe.
Mimi na familia yangu tafadhali. Sitawahi kukusamehe mpaka kufa kwangu.
Dadako hata tuacha tuishi kwa amani.
Unawezaje kwenda kumuwafaza wakati wajua faza ndo tegemea lilonalolio peke yake?
Kwa kama ushatemwa usileteza ovu mimi hapa.
I give you a good lawyer akuwakilishe. What's the problem? Mimi nitashinda vipi kesi wakili kama wewe utatoa ushahidi?
Ipo siku wakili utarudi ndani ya hii nyumba na hautanipata.
Hii ni Mitikasi leo, makala kutoka BBC yaliyomo. Baadhi ya serikali barani Afrika zapandisha viwango vya riba kukabiliana na mfumo kwa bei. Baadaye Kenya kupokea mamilioni ya dola za pesa za umma zilizonaswa katika visiwa vya Jazi. Kisha tunaangazia sekta ya huduma za fedha nchini Ethiopia. Mubashara kutoka Nairobi, Kenya, usibanduke. Na mnatumai hujambo mahali popote unapotutegea. Karibu katika habari za biashara zinazokuhusu, uchambuzi wa kina na mahojiano. Jina langu mie ni Hamida Abubakar. Sasa kupanda kwa mfumuko wa bei na viwango vya riba kumekuwa moja ya masuala yaliyowatia wasiwasi wanauchumi kote barani ili kuweza kukabiliana na mfumuko wa bei uliosababishwa na mzozo unaoendelea baina ya Urusi na Ukraini. Benki ya Akiba ya Afrika Kusini SARB iliongeza viwango vya riba hadi 4.25, hii ikiwa ni mara ya 3 mfululizo kwa viwango vya riba kuweza kuongezeka. Kiwango cha riba cha Misri kilipanda kwa pointi 100 hadi 10.25 katika mataifa ya magharibi. Sasa Benki Kuu ya Ghana imeweza kusema kwamba ilipandisha viwango vyake vya riba kwa 17% katika hatua ya kupunguza kasi ya mfumuko wa bei ambao huenda ukasababisha taifa hilo kutumbukia katika deni kubwa zaidi. Ghana ni mojawapo ya nchi zenye uchumi mkubwa zaidi Afrika Magharibi. Hii imekuwa ongezeko la juu zaidi katika miaka 20 yaliyopo. Sasa Benki Kuu ya Nigeria imepinga shinikizo la kuongeza viwango vya riba, na pia vile Kenya imeweza kudumisha viwango vyake vya riba kwa takriban miaka 2 sasa, lakini hii inaweza kubadilika hapo kesho Jumanne wakati kamati ya sera ya fedha itakapokutana. Sasa awali niliweza kuzungumza naye Ivan Tarimo ambaye ni